We go hide away in daylight. We go undercover, wait out the sun. Got a secret side in plain sight. Where the streets are empty, that's where we run. Everyday people do everyday things, but I can't be one of them. I know you hear me now. We are a different kind. We can do anything. We could be heroes. We could be heroes. Me and you. We could be heroes.
Welcome back, guys. It's MarsTV Dota 2 League time. This is round 2 of the qualifier stage of our competition, and this is our second match of the day. It's LGD Gaming up against CDEC Gaming, and LGD, they've built up a little bit of a head of steam, took out Immortal Magneto 2-0 in their previous series, and they're looking to continue that streak now as we move forward into this round. It's actually an LGD packed day today. As far as the schedule goes, we had LGD versus Immortal Magneto. This is going to be LGD versus CDEC. We have a little bit of a respite in the middle as HGT will be taking on Newbie in our next round. And then we're going to wrap up the day with what should be a really good match. It's actually LGD versus eHome. LGD obviously getting to take a little bit of a break before they have to take them on. So, should be an exciting day of Dota coming your way. Moving our way into this draft, we're starting to see some trends emerge as Xiaowei is going to be sticking to his guns, getting rid of both the Undying and the Spirit Breaker. And meanwhile, over on CDEC, we're going to have the Earthshaker and the Gyrocopter removed. That is going to mean that the Queen of Pain makes it through at least here into the initial round, though might quite quickly be banned out. And what else has been highly prioritized? I'm not actually sure what CDEC are going to go for here. I think with the Gyrocopter banned, probably have to keep an eye out for Sylar's Lifestealer. So a ban on something like an Ursa or a Razor could take us in that direction. I really doubt we're going to be seeing the hero in the early stages just because he is fairly easy to counter. And CDEC just going to keep things nice and open as they grab themselves that support Lina, or more than likely the support Lina as their opening pick. So LGD gonna have their opportunity to respond now. But it's been really interesting seeing how the meta is developing over in China. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to catch as much of some of the other tournaments as I would like. I think there's WCA stuff going on at the moment over in China. I think there is also the I-League competition that's being played at the moment, so there's lots of tournament play over there at the moment, and I feel like the meta is probably developing pretty rapidly, but hard to catch all of the action at once, especially casting 8 games a day, but still getting a pretty good handle on what's going on just from being here in the MDL. So LGD are just going to end up picking up the Visage for themselves. Pretty much every team at the moment is grabbing at least one support in their first 2 picks. Pretty stock standard stuff there. And the question is going to be, what is this next pick going to be? In terms of overall structure, I feel like LGD tend to grab offlaners earlier in the draft. And then Maybe's hero tends to be in the middle, and it is often Sylar as the final grab, though it does of course depend a little bit on bans and what heroes are still remaining in the pool. The Visage could be the beginnings of the sort of Dragon Knight oriented push strategies that we've seen out of LGD. And well, Puck is going to be snagged here, but I don't think that's too much information for CDEC since we have seen both Yao and maybe handling that hero on both the off lane and mid lane respectively. So CDEC gonna have to keep that in mind as we move a little bit further forward into the draft. And they end up grabbing a Phantom Lancer. This is a hero that I think he's crazy. I don't think he's overpowered, but I feel like it's definitely a hero that is probably going to grow in popularity moving forward. I feel like it has already started to pick up a little bit of pace compared to a couple of weeks ago where we weren't really seeing any Phantom Lancer at all, but players like Howe and whatnot have started to bring the Phantom Lancer more and more into the spotlight. So definitely expecting to see more and more of him as we move forward. But if you don't have the right combination of AoE to identify the real PL and single target lockdown to stop him from escaping, then this hero can get out of control really quickly. And also, I think provides the kind of laning support that you're looking for at the moment out of your carry. You know, people are picking Gyrocopter so heavily because of how hard he can dominate in the safe lane and let you get away with lots of pulls and stacks and still keep the offlaner under control. And Phantom Lancer is similar to a lesser degree, but the Spirit Lance spam does still add a lot of kill potential from your carry hero and does give you a lot of options. And people at the moment are in general playing Phantom Lancer as a sort of getting him online ASAP, get a couple of items like your Aquila and your Drum and your Treads, go straight to Fusel Blade after that. But there is the opportunity to be greedier if the other team isn't going to punish you for it. You can weave Boots of Travel in earlier into the build, you can put in a Yasha for some extra farm speed, you can even pick up both Travels and a Manta before you start going back for your Diffusal and your bigger items later on. So definitely a lot of variability possible in terms of how you're building this hero, and it lets you hit a lot of different timings, which is always going to be good, though at the moment it seems like everybody is targeting as early as possible. We've definitely shifted back to being able to hold on to a lead, and the early game is carrying a little bit more weight. It's interesting because from my perspective, the biggest problem with some of what we saw at TI4, I think people have unfortunately taken the TI4 finals as representative of all of TI4, which personally, on a personal level, I don't think is necessarily true. We saw some Naga games. I think there was quite a bit of variation in strategy in TI, but you know, finals were what they were. But my biggest problem with that version was that the high ground was a formality. Teams would get so far ahead that they would have a 20k net worth lead, 20k experience lead after taking all of the tier 2 towers if the early game went well enough, and pushing high ground was almost never a problem. I think we swung back, which is a shame because the high ground is supposed to have an advantage and it is supposed to be difficult to break. I think we seesawed back a little bit too far over the last couple of versions with all of the net worth changes and experience changes and tower bounties and glyph refreshing and whatnot. And this version, I feel like we're starting to find a little bit more of a happy medium. You can push towers and you can get a lead and you can hold a lead and it matters, but the high ground is still a relevant enough barrier that it presents the opportunity for teams to be able to leverage buybacks and whatnot to be able to drag the game back. Of course, it's still early days for this patch, and we're probably going to realize that there are some issues down the line, but I feel like we're moving into a good place, especially with how fundamental a lot of these changes have been, you know, to the nature of the game, with tweaking bounties, etc., etc. Anyway, but that's my rant on that topic. Let's get back to the draft here. We've got a Queen of Pain and a Clockwork banned out by LGD. CDEC are going to be getting rid of a Drow Ranger and a Lycan, so they are still a little bit worried of that more push-oriented strat out of LGD, which I think is fair enough given that this Visage was the early grab, and we are going to end up seeing that Dragon Knight that I was mentioning, so it is going to be, it looks like more than likely your Yao offlane Puck. And we're going to have to see what the final grab will be for Sylar. No mech carrier on the team just yet, but we have actually seen Xiao 8 on Visage be pretty successful in farming up a relatively early mech in some of the recent games, just by taking some smart team fights. So I could once again see him as the mech carrier, as CDEC are going to end up going for a Darkseer. I feel like they don't really have all that much that's going to be benefiting from the vacuum just yet. And Viper is also not a hero that I feel fits into that all that well. The other thing that to me is a little bit weird about this is the Viper feels like a reactionary pick to the Dragon Knight, in that they want somebody who's going to do quite well against the DK mid. But there's now this weird sort of setup in terms of, okay, one of the biggest features of Darkseer is that he can quite reliably farm a mech for your team, so you can go and get fighting relatively early. But the same is very much true of the Viper, so there's a little bit of overlap there, and we'll just have to see what items these two heroes end up going for as the alternatives. We've got a Rubik ban out from LGD, as CDEC do need themselves a secondary support. CDEC thought it was going to be a more pushing-oriented strategy with the Luna, but LGD are going to switch things back the opposite direction. A little bit of bait and switch, I think, going on as they end up grabbing the Anti-Mage, who is so brutal to play against as Darkseer. Also, probably one of the few comfortable Battle Fury buyers at the moment, which is really good for helping to clean out Phantom Lancer illusions, and gives LGD a lot of late game potential between the DK and the Anti-Mage. I think they're actually now pretty well positioned to deal with the Phantom Lancer. They've got some nice AoE from the Puck and the Lion, they've got the single target lockdown from the Lion and the Dragon Knight, and they've got the Dragon Knight and the Anti-Mage cleave as well to help clean out those illusions and identify the real Phantom Lancer. So I like LGD's draft a lot, and I feel like CDEC got really caught up in stopping LGD from pushing and having enough sort of early to mid-game team fight, and their draft definitely seems to be the much more reactionary on the whole. I think it's still pretty solid, though I'm yet to feel convinced by a Darkseer just yet this version, despite some of the buffs. So we'll see if this is going to be the game. As much as Anti-Mage does give Darkseer a pretty hard time in lane, as does Lion, at the very least you can get some pretty high value illusions from the DK and the AM here. So they do at least have that going for them, and we'll see if XZ can be the man to prove to me the potential that Darkseer still holds. And they do have that Sand King as the final pickup, so they do manage to get a little bit more synergy to go with the Vacuum, which is what I was criticizing the Darkseer with earlier. And one of the coolest things that you can do with Darkseer and Sand King as a pairing is gank the opposing safe lane. Darkseer's going to get his levels, he's a very capable offlaner, you get your third point up in the Ion Shell, the Sand King's been jungling for a little bit, maybe he's level 3, maybe he's level 5, you've got 2 points in the Burrow Strike or 3 points in the Burrow Strike, and Sand King can just TP up here with a smoke up, runs up, Darkseer gives him an Ion Shell, Darkseer gives him a Surge, the Surged Ion Shelled Sand King runs forward, Burrow Strikes a support, or Burrow Strikes your carry, and that guy's dead. A lot of the time there are just no questions asked, and it's a total freebie gank, and it's really, really difficult to see coming because Sand King is always off the map anyway. So cool little thing that they've got going on there, but also the obvious teamfight synergy of Sand King can channel up an epicenter, they can jump in Vacuum, Burrow Strike through the entire Vacuum, and wreak total havoc against LGD. So something else to look forward to there. As we get in, let's do some introductions. Over on LGD, we've got Yao on the Puck, we've got Sylar on Anti-Mage, we've got Xiao 8 on the Lion, maybe he's going to be handling the Dragon Knight, and MMY, in fact, is going to be on the Visage. So a little bit of a swap up in terms of who's playing what, but I think both of these players are extremely comfortable on all of their support heroes, so shouldn't end up being too much of a problem. Meanwhile, for CDEC, we've got XZ on Darkseer. Shiki is going to be heading mid on the Viper, starting out with the Bounty Rune, or maybe giving it to Garter if he's feeling extremely kind, but I doubt it. We've got Garter on Sand King, we've got Q on Lina, and finally we have Aggressive on the Phantom Lancer, looking just to get a nice little block to start things out here. Puck, definitely not the best offlane in the world. Yao going to be pretty conservative with his Observer Ward placement, just doesn't want it to be dewarded, and just wants to keep an eye on where the Lina is and what she's up to in terms of trying to zone him out. No blocks in any of the jungle camps, so Garter should be able to get a pretty fast Blink Dagger up this game, but hopefully for him, Darkseer is going to have a decent time in the offlane and won't have to come and steal too much of the jungle, though. LGD are already going to start laying into him. Ring of Protection and the Stout Shield going to take the edge off a couple of these auto attacks, but LGD are already doing a pretty good job of controlling the lane. They've got their lane ward down. Anti-Mage unfortunately forced to pull things back to the tower already and doesn't quite have his Quelling Blade, but looks like Sylar is still going to be just fine to grab pretty much all of the CS out of this initial wave, just missing the one. In terms of your mid lane matchup, I feel like this does favor the Viper, at least initially, but Viper is actually really terrible against heroes that can just spam and push the wave, and Shiki is already sort of not in between the wave and the Dragon Knight, which is, I think, definitely where you want to be against these heroes that can't fight you at all with the Vipers. So I feel like Shiki's played this maybe a little bit defensively. I mean, still doing very nicely on CS, but the Dragon Knight has already got his bottle out, and he's already getting quite a bit done. And Yao has already managed to reach level 2. Q did buy up some Sentry Wards, and he's going to be getting a little bit of de-warding done here, so this offlane is about to get more difficult for Yao. Looks like we had an attempt on XZ's life up top, but he's going to be alright. And he's also similar to Yao, just placed a very, very defensive Observer Ward. Not blocking anything out, absolutely no clues as to where it's placed, and just wants to make sure that he has tabs on what the supports are up to and whether or not they're rotating over to mid lane, since both mid laners are pretty vulnerable to ganks this game in general. Yao's actually going to get a sneaky sentry from somewhere and come over and place that to block out this big camp. It has already been stacked the once, so already a little bit of farm waiting there for the Sand King, and no, they're not going to let Yao come back into the lane either. Nicely played there by the Lina, just stunning from up on the high ground and forcing Yao to take the long path back and miss out on a little bit of experience in the process. XZ unfortunately picked up an Invis rune. There was a Sentry Ward placed down by LGD, so they both zoned him off with the Invis rune, and they got rid of his wards. So both offlanes now completely blind, and looking like both XZ and Yao are going to have a pretty tough time here. CDEC do lose control of the bottom lane a little bit, so some experience coming in here for Yao, but Phantom Lancer still getting the denies and still doing a good job keeping up on farm, as is the Anti-Mage. Both doing pretty well right now. Shiki is totally crushing mid lane. I mean, he's expected to get every single CS. There should be no way that the Dragon Knight stops him from getting any, but I think the biggest thing is how many denies he's going to be able to rack up, and how low he keeps the Dragon Knight's farm. DK looks like for the moment just going to be running Bottle Crows back and forth, and the funny thing is that Dragon Knight, similar to Shadow Fiend, even if he has a bad start, he's going to spam he's going to spam waves, he's going to get a couple of CS, and especially in this situation, he's likely eventually going to take a tier 1 tower. Be it the mid lane tower because you leave, or be it the safe lane tower because he leaves. There is always that little bit of more or less guaranteed gold waiting. 4-minute rune coming up. XZ is already down here camping that one up and finds himself a haste. Maybe realizing that he can't go back to mid because the Viper would run over and be the death of him. He's going to be running up and joining his support here and just taking the long way back to the lane. So a nice safe play from him. LGD, a little bit uncharacteristic. We don't have any stacks or anything set up just yet over in the jungle, so nothing for the Anti-Mage or the Dragon Knight to fall back on. But has that actually translated into better farm on them? Yeah, it looks like they've just been running a lot of pulls and spending a lot of time zoning out the darks here instead this game. CDEC, meanwhile, Q about to reach level 3, so doing decently there. We're going to check out Garder's stacks over in the jungle. So this push is continuing top. LGD. Sylar actually picking up this early Bassi to make exactly this play. So it looks like LGD had all of this planned out, and they just want this little bit of extra early tower gold. Looks like they ran a single pull to get the double range creep and the siege wagon. And they've turned on this Bassi and are just tanking the wave up with the Ring of Health to ensure that they get this tower last hit. Looks like Sylar probably coming in for the last hit. Nope! MMY gonna sneak it out from underneath his nose, but I think definitely not too bad to have that little bit of extra gold on the Visage at this early stage. Again, he could end up being the mech carrier for the team if that's how LGD want to approach this game. Could also just end up buying a relatively quick Medallion or Solar Crest if they want that little bit of extra Roshan power, though they probably only need the Medallion and maybe a Vlad's on the Anti-Mage after his Battle Fury to get the Roshan super easily, so might not even need to see them grabbing it too early. Puck also going to be pretty happy that that tower was taken down, a little bit of extra gold for him, and looks like Yao was trying to decide between Treads or Phase this game, but is going to end up selling his Belt of Giant Strength and instead opt for the slightly more aggressive Blades of Attack. And in general, not a heck of a lot happening at the moment. I thought we might see a bit more action and more attempted ganks on the mid lane, but I feel like both offlaners have been doing a really good job of keeping eyes on supports, and that has made it a little bit more difficult to go and get anything done. Yeah, nicely phase shift dodge the Spirit Lance, but that means that the stuns are going to be able to land, and that means that CDEC are going to be able to grab this first blood. Q picking that one up, and Garter, well, just going to immediately pop a Clarity and go back to his job of stacking up the jungle and readying that Blink Dagger as quickly as he possibly can. Already 1,300 gold up, and this is a double stack over there, so looks like things are going pretty nicely for him, and should be a very decently timed Blink this game. Darkseer not doing all that well, so looks like he is going to have to come and take a little bit of this jungle and grab a little bit of experience there. And it's kind of sad to see a Darkseer in this situation. Used to be picked because he was the premium offlaner, guaranteed to get a little bit of farm against almost any tri-lane, and now people are, I think, better at dealing with him and, yeah, better at controlling lanes in general, and well, this poor Darkseer just getting not very much, but can start farming up the jungle and should be able to make his recovery that way. So, and meanwhile, we have Maybe smoked up along with the Lion, who's only level 3. And are they actually, really, are they going to go in for this push on the tier 2? I don't think they can get it in one go, but they're probably going to get some TPs out, potentially. Who on CDEC actually has a TP at this early stage of the game? One on the Lina, one on the Viper, and that's about it. Looks like it is going to be the Viper responding to this one. Also the Darkseer making his way over. The Corrosive Breath doing good damage. Sylar has that Ring of Health regen to lean on, so not too unhappy about taking a couple of auto attacks here. And it looks like, well, what else is going on down bottom lane? Yao, phase shift to orbing and jaunting over into the trees, and looks like a little bit of a merry chase with the CDEC safe lane here. In terms of items, what is Aggressive going for? Just has Power Treads and a Bassi picked up so far, so we'll see what he's going to be going for. Looks like he is similar to a lot of safe laners these days, just going to be stacking up on Drum, Aquila, lots of little items before he starts looking towards anything bigger. Viper, okay, looks like he's just going to be going for Mech. So I guess that does mean that the Darkseer can just go for a Force Staff or a Blink as his very first item, and the fact that he's been doing not so amazingly well in the off lane probably shouldn't matter for too much. So they are now giving him a little bit of farm over in the mid lane as well. And looks like Garter just going to be able to clean up this stack and pretty much have his Blink Dagger complete. Should be able to start moving around the map pretty soon and getting a little bit of ganking done. But in terms of overall farm, Sylar leading the way, doing really well on his anti-mage at the moment. Still a ways to go until he gets his Battle Fury, but looks like that's going to be coming up before too long. We've got a bunch of little items flying out for the Phantom Lancer at the moment. Completes his one, buys a Bracer, and gets the Ring of Aquila, so he's looking a little bit more combat ready at this stage. And could start to apply a little bit more pressure onto this tier 1 tower since the Puck is away. Puck is also going to be handed the mid lane for a little bit, so both teams making the exact same play and recovering their offlaners a little bit here, but looks like, yeah, just going to pick up some phase boots, and Xiaoid is itching to get him ganking with this, get him ganking with this coil, so. Where is he actually going? I think, yeah, okay. Gonna place a ward back behind the tower, keeping an eye on what's going on here. They've got the level 6 on the Visage, so MMY gonna be sending the birds along for the ride here. As that Blink Dagger is now complete on the Sand King Garter. This first gank is definitely gonna be a very big deal, but see what he can get done. LGD are doing a really good job of controlling all of this area between mid and top right now. Shiki, Ion Shelled up, gonna come clear out the wave a little bit more top, but nothing that they can really do to kill off this anti-mage. And in general, that might be a problem that they run into this game. They've got Burrow Strike and Light Strike Array, and that's pretty much it for Lockdown Shiki. A little bit of trouble here, doesn't have the mech just yet. Getting right-clicked away at. The Familiar's doing good damage. Xiaoid comes in, gets up the Hex, but the Burrow Strike along with the Light Strike Array come through, and Shiki with those 4 points up in the Corrosive Skin, able to tank it up. Yao also cat out by the Phantom Lancer, and CDEC bring in everybody, but they get 2 totally unanswered kills here as the Viper is just able to limp his way back to the fountain. Really nicely done for them. And Garter coming up top lane now. Burrow Strike onto Sylar. Ion Shell damage. Not quite enough to finish him off. Strength treads and blinks away, surviving at about 60 HP there. But well, Garter, pretty nice initial showing with the Blink Dagger. And CDEC actually coming out of the early game with a really substantial lead. 1500 net worth. 2k experience. Puck is not going to have a Blink Dagger for a very long time, and LGD, despite having pretty good net worth on the Dragon Knight, maybe hasn't really been able to can't really make as many plays in the Dragon Knight compared to something like his Puck. But another Bar Strike coming in, Laguna Blade dropped off, and maybe just in the wrong place at the wrong time looking for that 12-minute rune is going to be very easily brought down as Garter notches a 3rd kill to his belt in as many minutes. This Blink Dagger is really paying for itself. As XZ just going to continue farming up a little bit. Still only level 6 for the time being, but he's not the lowest level in the game. That title falls to poor Xiaowei on this Lion, who's been trying to get some ganking done, but has yet to be successful. CDEC going to turn that kill into a tier 1 tower down bot. Last hit snagged by the Phantom Lancer. Got some Arcane Boots over on the Lina, so she's pretty happy with how things are going as well. And for CDEC, things looking really, really good. They do need to get out on the map and place a couple more wards down, but Q's already got one waiting in his inventory. Yao taking a little bit more farm down bot. Q's going to run forward, pump fake the Light Strike Array. Garter getting into position over in the trees. But Yao, having seen that there's some heroes waiting down here bot, is not going to stick around and risk the Sand King gank. So back he goes, and Garter and Q gonna have to find themselves another hapless victim. So it looks like maybe it's just going for first item BKB. We do have that medallion over on MMY. Sylar, one component away from completing up the Battle Fury, so he can start farming away pretty soon. Xiaowei also given a little bit of time to catch up over on top, so should have his level 6 before too long. And I'll see that the gank train just keeps on rolling. Garter ion shelled up, leading the pack. The line is being drawn. They don't have a whole lot of vision, but they're probably bringing a couple of wards along with them. I think that's an oversight. I think you should probably bring a couple of wards with you when you're going for this gank. You could have placed this ward, or just anything over in the Dire Jungle. Just set yourself up for future opportunities, but no luck this time around. Just gonna have to run up the blind hill straight into the back of this LGD smoke. It's maybe that they find first. He's tanky, but not to the magical damage. We'll be able to burst him down quickly. Garter getting stunned up. The familiar is in over the top as well, but Garter aggressive jumping in over onto MMY. We've got the coil as a little bit of counter initiation. Garter's in some trouble. Has the Burrow Strike off cooldown, ends up breaking the coil. Not the best from him. It's a 2 for 3 so far. Wall gets dropped down. Yao in some trouble as the Phantom Lancer with the Ion Shell will continue to chase. But Yao not going to end up orbing away. Actually just waiting behind. Unable to phase shift though. It looks like he will still end up going down. Sylar blinks in, but there's another Doppel walk away. And being the lone survivor of the LGD side, he's just going to have to go back to farming. Ends up being 4 for 2 overall. 3k experience and 1.4k gold in CDEC's favor. And LGD definitely not getting what they were looking for there. They were smoked. They were, I think, coming down and they were going to try and loop around mid, but instead their Dragon Knight gets blown up on the back lines and CDEC take a really nice fight. No, with that, aggressive, actually just gonna go wail on Sylar for a little bit, who just wants to finish up his Battle Fury. That is actually gonna be pretty much the Phantom Lancer's Fusel Blade complete. We've got the mech over on the Viper, and we've got 1800 gold over on Darkseer, so that second Blink Dagger could be coming out before too long. And LGD don't really have all that many plays to make. There's still a tier 1 tower standing bot, so they could look to grab that one with the Dragon Knight, but it is going to be a little bit obvious. Now that the Anti-Mage has his Battle Fury, he can farm up. So there is, I think, a bit of a question as to whether or not you go for the Vlads here. I think it's good, and I think having the Roshan potential without needing to bring the whole team is nice, but CDEC are also now pretty substantially ahead, 4K gold and 4K experience, and you might need to buy combat-ready items pretty quickly. I think for CDEC, they do still have a little bit of difficulty in terms of MMY. Caught out and killed. Garter still making amazing use of this Blink Dagger, but I think for CDEC, there's still a little bit of an issue in terms of actually killing the anti-mage, especially once he has another survivability item up, but we'll see if he's going to be able to split push hard enough, since CDEC can quite comfortably start 5-manning from this point forward. Fortunately for LGD, they have already managed to take the tier 1 mid and the tier 1 top, so they've got a little bit more room to split push with the anti-mage, which is always going to be nice, but CDEC are already starting to breathe down their neck a little bit as they come in for this tier 2 bot. And Puck, only 1200 gold over on Yao, so still going to take him another 4 minutes plus probably to finish up his Blink Dagger, which I don't think CDEC are going to give to him. Looks like XZ is actually going to be going for what looks like a BKB as his first big item instead. There's only 1 point up in the vacuum so far, which is a little bit of a problem for these epicenter combos. And Darkseer probably still not quite in the position that CDEC would like him. Looks like a little bit of orb harassment along with the familiars coming in is actually going to be enough just to deter CDEC, and the split push coming down mid lane for maybe, as well as Sylar moving into position over on top. Okay, that's unfortunate for CDEC. Placed in a ward, but Jarrett's going to be able to spot it out with a sentry. That is the one kind of benefit of having that's another benefit of having the Visage on your team, is that you don't always have to use the sentry wards for the uphill vision, because you can just use the birds. Or in a normal game, you can just use the courier. And I think you would have probably caught this ward over here anyway, even if you'd put the sentry up on the cliff, but CDEC do end up losing some vision there. There's actually really decent dire vision over on the Radiant side of the map, so pretty good handle on what's going on over on the CDEC side right now. And they're a little bit blind in return. This ward's only got about a quarter of its duration left, and again, when they went for that big movement up through the dire jungle, they didn't bring any wards along with them, and they weren't really able to establish any vision there. There are a couple of Lina illusions scouting things out at the moment, and gonna try and block out some camps. Looks like Sylar's gonna spot those. So XZ now starting to pick up the pace on levels. Almost has the level 11 up, and will be able to max out his vacuum pretty soon. So that's looking really good for him. And for LGD, what have they managed to build up in terms of winning a team fight? They've got 1200 gold towards the Lion Blink. They've got 1900 gold towards the Puck Blink, which is definitely going to be a very big deal. They've got the BKB over on the Dragon Knight. Sylar's got 2.1k. So we're going to see what his decision is going to be item-wise relatively soon. And what is CDEC up to? Looks like next big item is probably going to be what looks like a BKB for your Viper here. No sign just yet of what the Phantom Lancer is going for, as he has pretty much just completed his defusal, I think. I think he may have gone back for the drum, not 100% sure. We're going to Bar Strike coming in mid lane. Yao able to get off the phase shift. Orb's a little bit further away, but one last auto attack seals the deal. The coil was dropped, but LGD not in the neighborhood to be able to punish, so it just ends up being a little bit of extra value for CDEC on that kill. And that might set them up to go a little bit further. Yao was also painfully close to... Did he actually have it? He was at like, what, 1950 and he lost... Oh, he was so painfully close to his blink there. That is really, really sad. But still going to be able to grab it pretty much as soon as he respawns, so not too bad. Sylar does end up going for the Vlads, so they've unlocked that little bit of Roshan potential, and he pretty much never has to go back to base from this point forward. Garter lurking in the trees. Ion shelled up, gonna start the epicenter off and jump straight in. They're looking for maybe first Jowett attempting a little bit of counter initiation, but gets vacuumed together. The BKB pops off, but maybe's quite low and Aggressive's running straight in. Jowett will fall as maybe dancing back and forth considering they're engaged. They do end up losing the Lina as Sylar comes in on the back lines and does at least manage to make it a 1-for-1 exchange. CDEC still have this wall down for a while, and another creep wave coming in pretty soon, so it looks like they will still be able to claim this tier 2. Yao throwing out one more orb.
Dire's middle tower
I think he was hoping to get a random CS and get his Blink Dagger, but passive gold's still gonna get him there. And Familiars in the meantime are starting to backdoor this tier 1 tower bottom. So it looks like LGD are eventually gonna be able to grab that one just off of the birds. And actually a Vlad's for the Darks here as well. So CDEC are really looking to end this game pretty soon.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
But
attack.
is Vlad's really the item to do that? Yes, your Phantom Lancer's right click is pretty good. Yes, your Viper's right click is pretty good. But I feel like a pipe gets you up onto the high ground more easily than the Vlad's does. I'm a tiny bit skeptical of this Vlad's pickup. We'll see what it ends up. I'll say that. I'm like, oh, we'll see what it ends up doing. But on the other hand, Vlad's is not an item that you really see having a huge impact. Kind of distributed over the whole team, nice overall benefit, but at the same time, it's definitely less active than say a Blink Dagger or a BKB or the kinds of plays that you could make with those items. But
Radiant's bottom tower.
I will reserve judgment for the time being, and if it means that CDEC end the game in the next 10 minutes, then and totally avoid the anti-mage getting too scary, then they're gonna be very happy with that. The tower bot did end up being denied by the Vipers, so the Familiar is unable to seal the deal. And the split push there. LGD, can they get these birds out of here? They don't have a resummon at the moment, so CDEC really want to get some kills here, but yeah, it takes so many attacks to kill them now. They're just gonna cruise over the cliff. Lion? Where did he die? Bottom lane. Cole gets dropped on Shiki, but he just easily auto attacks the Lion to death there. There's nobody else even nearby, so it looks like, yeah, Viper just straight up right clicked Lion to death. That was definitely a weird one. Sylar's still pushing away on top lane. He's got his Yasha up now. Wall's gonna be dropped by XZ just for a little bit of harassment. Maybe still nearby. Wants to keep the push pressure over on top lane. Shiki, I think, eager to lead his team into a push down on bottom lane since he is carrying his BKB now, but the Darkseer is all the way over on the other side of the map, and we'll see if that's gonna give CDEC a little bit of pause as to whether or not they're actually gonna go in for this one. We've got 4 heroes from LGD already back. Yao's got his blink, but no coil for 30 seconds. Definitely no blink over on the Lion just yet. MMY, what is he shopping for? I think he might be doing the majority of the warding here as they try and get the Blink Dagger over on the Lion, but
Tis mine.
CDEC still being repelled for the time being. XE still all the way over at top. We've got Gardas Force Staff, which does definitely bring the potential for some big plays, but the longer CDEC gets stalled here, the more split pushing Sylar is getting done. And the more pressure that he's applying. Has his TP scroll at the ready if something breaks out, but it looks like CDEC are going to be able to force things in bottom lane. Familiar is looking for the deny, but Viper still snags that last hit there. And with that, CDEC consider heading into Roshan. This is a dangerous move. This is definitely, as much as LGD's lineup is not the most amazing for punishing you around the pit, just being tenderized by trying to get Roshan could be dangerous for them. Sylar is still just bouncing between mid lane and top lane, trying to buy as much time for his team as he possibly can. Maybe he's just grabbed a Yasha on his Dragonite at the moment, so it looks like he's trying to buy up as many little items as he possibly can, but he's being spotted out by this Observer Ward, and there's a Blink Burrow coming in. Epicenter only finds a BKB here as Garda gets fingered from the low ground, 4 steps forward, but still going to end up going down. LGD looking for more of a turnaround here. Q drops the Light Strike Array, but Yao finds the Waning Rift. They had the Hex. Sylar, another Blink in a second as well. As he comes in, they vacuum together everybody into the Light Strike Array along with the wall, then now the Laguna Blade comes out. Sylar forced to blink back defensively. Yao losing mana quickly as Aggressive joins this fight, dominating streak for him. And CDEC coordinate a great turnaround, especially after losing the Sand King and still getting that initial target that they were looking for with the Dragon Knight. So Yeah, it's going to be 2.1k experience for them, 700 gold lining their pockets as well, and with the Dragon Knight dead and his BKB on cooldown, going to be able to head straight up onto the high ground. No wall for 60 seconds, but they've still got their BKB over on the Viper. A little bit of harassment coming out of Yao, but that's all he can muster for the moment. And the Familiars are also going to do their best to drive things back. Hex for a couple of extra tower auto attacks. An annoying mana drain from Xiao just being as much of a nuisance as he possibly can, while Sylar is off pushing down on the bottom lane. You got a couple of TPs out. Garter and Q are both down there, so that's going to force CDEC to back off, and well, the high ground will still stand relatively healthy. Tier 3 mid at about 3/4, and bot lane totally unscathed at the moment for LGD. Sylar does need to find a lane to split push pretty quickly, so he's going to go blinking around at the moment. And looks like he will once again be returning down to bot. As looks like CDEC are going to be making another bid for the high ground. See if they can get this down this time around. They've got the coil back off cooldown for Puck, so Yao ready to drop that one down. And Sylar, how much health is actually on this tier 2 tower, and is there a glyph? There's no glyph, but the tier 2 is on full HP, and I think CDEC are going to be willing to, if they can somehow force it, trade tier 2 for tier 3, but they do have to be wary, and Sylar's already auto-attacking the tower down bot. At the moment, all of CDEC are back in the fog, but as they reveal themselves once again on mid, at least everybody but the Sand King, Sylar is going to feel confident to come back in and continue auto-attacking the tier 2. CDEC doing their best to make their way into the high ground, maybe get stunned up, but Yao with the counter initiation drops down the coil. BKB from your Viper. What else can he find? They've already bursted down the Lina. Yao trying to find his escape. And Shiki only going to be able to get down the Lion. Meanwhile, Sylar pushing in bottom lane, gets the tier 2. And CDEC all fairly low on mana. I don't know if they're going to be able to stick around here. Sylar probably still has Manta Style off cooldown. He's now made his way up onto the high ground. The glyph is available, but CDEC, a really important decision to be made here. And the only person with a TP scroll is in fact the Phantom Lancer, who has to go back and defend. And with that, LGD are going to swarm out of the base, shove out all of the other lanes, and I think be really happy with how they managed that. They traded 1-for-1 Lion for the Lina. They got the BKB from the Viper. They got a tier 2 bot, and all they lost, they didn't even lose any additional health on the towers. So CDEC just kind of losing their nerve a little bit and trying to force things, and I think it's somewhat understandable because this anti-mage is super scary this game. Sylar is just farming and farming and farming, and they don't really have the best answers for him. I mean, unless Darkseer can pick up something like a Hex for that little bit of extra lockdown that they do definitely need. But that haste is, I think, causing them to be a little bit sloppy. Maybe, meanwhile, just trying to finish up SNY still. MMY still hasn't really found a whole lot of farm, and Aggressive just going to be picking up a Manta Style here. Definitely a very solid item on Phantom Lancer, can't complain.
Radiant's top tower has been denied.
And even just being able to send the Manta Illusions to go and intercept another lane is a really big deal, because nowadays you can't do that with any of your other your PL Illusions. So they can be pushing mid, and he can be sending Illusions to go and cut whatever wave the anti-mage is split pushing if he plays it right, and that can hopefully drag things back and take the edge out of the AM split push. Though AM's creeps are going to survive for quite a while with the Vlad, so if he has one wave with him, I think he's still going to be all right. Top lane pushed all the way to the base in terms of dire vision, and they haven't seen anyone on the Radiant side for a little while, but they've got the Familiar scouting this out, so they know what's going on. A couple of auto attacks, only the one Familiar going to end up surviving to be dropped down. But Sylar is actually just going to take this as a sign to go and push top lane in even further. LGD, couple of heroes poking their head around the pit. Yao maybe considering some big play potential. Trying to steal the Aegis here, or Sylar's going to take Rex. These guys have to TP back. Yao's going to try and stop them. Shiki, Garter, TP's coming out now. Yao looking for the coil. Not going to find it. Man, they didn't TP inside of the pit. I think otherwise he would have gone for that, but didn't find anyone with the orb. And Sylar's already back safely. Got the tier 3 tower, in fact. And for CDEC, as much as they now have the Aegis, they now have to push top. the tier 3 is down. They can't afford to let Anti-Mage push this lane and get a free lane of racks. So they're going to have to switch lanes. And I guess Anti-Mage is going to try and go for bottom lane. Garter trying to clean out this wave and start the push early, but gets spotted out by Xiao8 and Sylar, and he's going to be punished for that one. Nice kill picked up there for the Lions. Sylar comes in, but without the Burrow Strike to lead things off, very, very difficult to bring down this Anti-Mage, who's now got 4k gold, and is just going to be picking up a BKB. He's now totally unstoppable in these fights. Phantom Lancer, a lot of his damage is just from Diffusal Blade mana burns, so BKB is going to totally deal with that. And, well, if you can't lock down the Anti-Mage, you certainly cannot kill him. And poor Darkseer is actually the one who's going to be in some trouble now. Does have his BKB, so his mana pool shouldn't be emptied too quickly, but if Anti-Mage blinks in along with Lion, say, and they get the stun or they get the Hex off, then Darkseer's mana pool is going to get drained in no time flat. And even if he gets the BKB off after he's it's just not even going to matter. And the other question of what is going to matter is whether or not this Aegis is actually going to matter over on CDEC. 2 heroes smoking. Gonna spot out Sylar here. But, I mean, the only way that they can lead this off is with the Burrow Strike. Sylar's still around, blinking just in time down onto the low ground. Playing with fire there as Garter was a split second away. But Sylar will live to fight another day, and CDEC just still continuing to try and muscle in top as best they can. There is a glyph up and available for LGD. XZ trying to maintain control of his side of the map as best he can. And Sylar trying to stay one step ahead in terms of pushing these lanes and forcing CDEC back every single time they approach the base. XZ has places to go, so not going to spend too much time dealing with Sylar on mid. Just going to try and rejoin his team up on top, though. Looks like he's going to reconsider his decision and swing back over towards the mid lane. TP's now coming back in. They got the tier 2 tower, but the familiars actually end up getting the deny. And CDEC still just running from lane to lane, trying to get an opportunity to go and hit a tier 3 tower. They've already lost 3 minutes on this Aegis, and I think at this rate LGD are going to be able to wait it out successfully. Has anyone else on LGD really been farming all that much in the meantime? Maybe he's finished the Sanjin Yasha, and he's got another 2.4k gold. So that's looking pretty good for him. Lion, nothing spectacular, but he's got his Blink Dagger up now. And the Visage has actually been able to farm up a Solar Crest in the meantime as well. So very fast Roshans potentially for them, and also just an amazing item to have in general, especially against the Viper. I was talking about a potential Darkseer Hex, but it's actually going to be the Shiki Viper Scythe to try and deal with this Anti-Mage. And if they can get that down before the BKB comes out from Sylar, that could definitely be game-changing. So have to keep an eye out for that one. Aggressive has picked up some Boots of Travel. He's going to be pushing out bottom lane and could join his team with the BOTs at any time, but Sylar is already going to start chopping away on top lane. Backdoor protection not disabled just yet, but just reminding CDEC that he is ready to take this top lane of racks at a moment's notice. It looks like the way that CDEC are going to be able to break this split push is with the BOTs. I guess it does need to be careful that his BOT TP doesn't get cancelled by the Anti-Mage, but Sylar's playing it pretty safely, and he's backed all the way up at the moment, so looks like this might be the answer for CDEC. They've got the Hex now, they've got the Boots of Travel, and as much as I think they struggled under the pressure a little bit, especially when they pushed in up on mid, they didn't really end up losing too much. That push was only the tower. I think the Roshan was maybe a little bit weird, and I think the Aegis probably hasn't played as nicely as they would have liked it to, but I think the Boots of Travel and the Hex are definitely the best ways that they have to try and deal with this Anti-Mage. Though Aggressive still can't get the lane out far enough to actually go and rejoin his team, so I don't know what they do. It's such a tough call to make. You don't want... You're like, we're ahead, or at least we were ahead. I don't know if they still feel like they're ahead. The net worth and the gold have actually both touched down, almost touched down at 0 as Sylar continues to grow, but if you're feeling ahead, you're like, look, we are not giving Anti-Mage a lane of racks trade. We are not trading. We are the lineup that has the better team fight at the moment. We are not letting Sylar have this, but I mean, especially because they don't have a tier 3 and LGD actually have a tier 3 on them. The tier 2 still stands. Oh, they're gonna jump in here, Xiaowei. They're looking for XZ. He's definitely the target here for Sylar. Force Staff gets him a little bit further away, and he's still got plenty of mana, but Garter unable to get anything off Shiki. The Vac come back into the wall. He's auto-attacking away, but maybe he's winning the man fight for the time being. Sylar blinking through as well. Looks to finish off the Viper. Aggressive now joining this fight, working away on the Anti-Mage, losing mana quickly. The Laguna Blade comes out as well, but not really finding too much. Aggressive and XZ now getting kited around by the Dragon form. Soul Assumption comes in, finishes off your Darkseer. It's a 4-for-1 so far, and they're gonna make it 5-for-1 as MMY seals the deal with a double. LGD lose only the Lion at the end of the day, and so much damage from the Dragon Knight in that fight as well. I think probably some of it, I think this is probably counting illusions that he killed with Breathe Fire and the Elder Dragon form, but maybe just sat there auto-attacking the entire damn fight. Sylar didn't even get a Mana Void off, and it was really nicely played by CDEC to force staff the Darkseer away before he could get focused down, because that's exactly the initiation that I was talking about. The Lion blinks in with the AM, hoping to kill off the Darkseer, but CDEC managed that situation really, really nicely, though unfortunately the Sand King didn't end up getting off any spells, and it was just a... See, LGD just got the jump. LGD got the jump, and CDEC were just in a little bit of an awkward position. I keep thinking, whenever I see CDEC, I think LGD CDEC, even though I think they're now a separate entity. But yeah, that keeps messing me up on the team names, guys. So if anyone has noticed that is the reason. Anyway, Sylar's a monster. He's got 23k net worth. Maybe has actually, after that fight, managed to eclipse anyone over on CDEC, and it seems like these last two picks that LGD went for in the draft with the Dragon Knight and the Anti-Mage are definitely a very good response to the Phantom Lancer. Aggressive got to that fight a tiny bit late, so I think that was definitely a factor as well, but it seems like the cleave from both the DK and the AM is starting to give the Phantom Lancer a little bit of trouble. Puck has picked up his Aghanim Scepter meanwhile, and we now have a Butterfly over on the Anti-Mage. You can also be donated some Solar Crest evasion from the side. They're going to find Yao, they hex him up, they're going to try and burst him down, but what do they have left for Sylar? Stun comes out on 2, maybe still a little bit further away, so it looks like LGD actually just going to try and disengage. Looks like Xiaowei might also be paying for this one with his life, as CDEC come roaring out of nowhere and find 2 very straightforward kills. Sylar just going to immediately go back to split pushing stations and start continuing his work on this top lane, but CDEC, maybe a glimmer of opportunity here as they start to make their way over towards mid. Maybe getting geared up with Solar Crest and get the glyph ready for the Dire, but Sylar not going to be following through with the split push. He doesn't actually have a TP scroll at the moment, so it looks like he'd much rather come back and take the fight. The CDEC glyph's being used, trying to buy a little bit more time for the Puck to respawn. He does have a buyback if things get desperate, but not going to be using it for now. They jump through, they get the Burrow Strike out onto 2 maybe. Hex before he can drop anything. The Laguna Blade comes in as well. The Vacuum back onto everything, but Sylar is BKB'd, and Sylar is right-clicking away, drops the Mana Void onto Aggressive. Xiaowei with the 2-man stun from the side, finds them both, drops the Finger of Death. Garter with the Epi and the Burrow trying to make things happen and get a little bit of a recovery, but he's only going to find the 1 kill. Yao in front of him, as Sylar finds the triple, and CDEC, despite getting the tier 3, will still end up losing the fight at the hands of this Anti-Mage who didn't get hexed. They spent everything that they had on the Dragon Knight, and that let Sylar go absolutely ham. So the question now for LGD is what else they can get. Roshan's respawn, so into the pit they go. I don't know if... I guess Sylar probably ditches an item for Aegis here. He could give it to the Puck since the Puck just bought back, and that's going to be on cooldown for 6 minutes, but Courier's making its way over, so it looks like we are going to see a Vlad's transfer onto the Courier, and Sylar is going to be taking this Aegis for himself. And with that, LGD might actually be able to make their way back onto the front foot for the first time this game and start doing a little bit of aggressive pushing of their own. Net worth and experience are now pretty firmly over on LGD's side, about 5k net worth and about 10k experience their lead. And what the hell? MMY is like, okay, our Anti-Mage isn't carrying a Vlad's anymore. I will carry the Vlads. I will bear the burden for the team this game. Maybe meanwhile has finished up his Mjolnir, so that's going to mean no buyback for him, at least for a little while, but I think LGD probably want to, if they can, just come right down mid and take 2 lanes of Rax in one fell swoop. It's actually Aggressive's turn to start becoming the split pushing 1 position and trying to wait out the Aegis timer, so that the Worm has truly turned this game, but I don't think CDEC are necessarily farming towards a winning late game. Darkseer, just working on a Shiva's Guard at the moment. He's going to have that pretty soon, and in terms of any other big items coming up soon, we've got quite a bit of gold on the Lina to pick something up. Shiki and XZ also, what could they be working towards? I guess for Shiki, this Hex in the build, I think it was definitely the item, but it's now made his progression from here a little bit weird. I don't know what singleton item he goes for. I think AC is probably still really solid, but let's see what he ends up opting for. PL's going for BKB, and Anti-Mage the World is his oyster, 5.2k gold. Could replace this Aegis once it pops with anything that he wants. That's also without selling his Vlads, which he can quite easily do back at base. So if Sylar wants it, he can pretty much buy any single item in the game. And with the Aegis going to go forward to get a little bit of auto-attacking done, maybe. Somewhat Impatient is going to come in and also contribute with the Elder Dragon form, static charging himself up. Range Drax focused down first by Sylar. Garter jumps in. They're looking for maybe with his Force Staff off to the side. They've still managed to hex him up. Can they do enough damage quickly enough? They still right-clicking him down. He pops the BKB, but Aggressive now forced to man up against Sylar. And Sylar definitely winning the man fight. The Burst Strike comes through, but they've got to kill this Anti-Mage twice. And can they do it? He's away from the wall, but he's still just tanking up everything. Finger of Death gets dropped onto the Viper. He's going to pop the buyback, but can they actually catch anything? Garter, another beautiful 2-hero borrow, but there's another great Force Staff as well from LGD. Sylar still tanking through, and Xiaowei returns fire with the Earth Spike. Going to find themselves another kill. Lina also buying back. CDEC throwing everything that they have into this fight, but is it going to be enough? Looks like MMY will end up falling. Aggressive trying to find his way out here on very low HP. Sylar also quite low, but still has that Aegis Shiki. Is there any control left on the puck? Dream Coil's on cooldown for 30. But Sylar going to continue the chase. Underneath the tier 2 he goes. XZ still has a surge. Gets the Viper a little bit further away. But Sylar with one more blink disengages, and as the dust settles, it's going to be a lane of Rax down against CDEC. Only the Aegis popped, and CDEC also end up using 2 buybacks at the end of the day. LGD do end up losing 3, but everybody's going to be back up relatively soon. And yeah, Sylar now has himself an Abyssal Blade. So
Double damage.
There's that as well. What is Lina going? Okay, she bought back. She's not getting an item anytime soon. Puck, oh my god. Puck has 4.2k. Sylar still has 2.6. Dragon Knight still has 2k. Everybody on LGD is stinking rich right now. The Phantom Lancer is doing good damage in these fights, but he can't really give the Dragon Knight or the Anti-Mage. I feel like CDEC have been playing really well with their Hex and focusing heroes down every single time that Hex gets used, but Xiaowei has also been so on point with his Force Staff plays. You look at all these Force Staff plays from LGD, that's just the Lion. There is only one Force Staff on the team. So the Hex Force Staff over here, that was Xiaowei. This Burst Strike Force Staff up here, also the Lion. He's been making a ridiculous amount of plays this game. And CDEC, another smoke. Another rush over onto the dire side of the map. Gonna see if they can get something done here. Sylar ready to push out the mid lane as CDEC lay perched up on the high ground. No way for XE to get in all that quickly, but still ready to run in with the wall. And the vacuum, we've got a Sand King 10-second BKB, so Garter shouldn't have too many problems getting his ultimate off here, maybe. Looks like he's going to be the one to tank this up. Do they have the Force Staff? He's unable to turn, but they still Force Staff him further in. They jump into the fight. Sylar right-clicking on the back lines, maybe still tanking through. Gets hit by the Laguna Blade, and he's going to be brought down, but Garter being right-clicked by Sylar. XE also in a little bit of trouble. They drop the wall. Sylar disengaging from that. Aggressive forward onto Xiaowei brings him down. Sylar slowed up. but able to get off another blink. Familiars flying in over the top, still have their stuns available, but LGD looks like just going to be disengaging for the time being. No buyback available on the Dragon Knight, in fact. Still needs another 1k gold, and actually bought up a Yasha out of that 2k gold that we saw him with earlier. Might live to regret that. It looks like CDEC are going to be able to take back a lane of racks here. Glyph gets used. Sylar knows that he's still very difficult to bring down at the moment, but does need to be careful. The Hex is back off cooldown on Shiki, though Garter is not there with the Burrow Strike ready to be able to offer the little bit of additional lockdown, and MMY still dropping Solar Crests on Sylar's head just to help keep him safe. They get the ranged racks, but the melee still stands, and they're gonna have their Lion back up in a couple of seconds, along with a Dream Coil in 15, and now CDEC trying to disengage. Sylar gives chase, aggressive, gonna be TPing himself back, and just leaving the rest of the team to fend for themselves. XZ gets off another surge. Yao blinks forward, but the coil is a couple of seconds away from cooling down, and that is gonna be it for that push up mid. So LGD get both of their heroes back. They only lose the ranged racks. Roshan potentially back up in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. And, well, CDEC back to the drawing board somewhat. Their buybacks are cooling down, and I think they have managed to grab a little bit more farm here and there. Shiki with 2.7k, Phantom Lancer. I guess this is now where we have to start thinking about what Phantom Lancer's final item build is actually going to look like. This could honestly be a game where the PL considers buying an Abyssal Blade. They just need the lockdown to be able to kill the Anti-Mage. Looks like right now he's shipping the courier out to get something. No, that's actually just Q working towards an Ags. The Laguna Blades have been really instrumental in bursting down the Dragon Knight every single time he's been burrow struck here, so and that little bit of extra oomph is definitely going to go a long way. And Garter, I think did he get Abyssal Bladed by the Anti-Mage in that last fight? Everything is just so chaotic with wall illusions and Phantom Lancer illusions and Anti-Mage illusions that it's a little bit difficult to see exactly what's going on, but I do think that Sylar jumped right on top of the Sand King and brought him down, and totally the right thing to do. Burrow Strike on an 11-second cooldown is way too repeatable of a stun to leave up in these fights, especially with the amount of damage that the right clickers on both sides are doing. The duration of a Burrow Strike can be more than enough to even bring down one of these bigger heroes if they don't have BKB active. Speaking of BKBs, let's look at some times. We've got 5 seconds left on Maybe's BKB. We've got 6 seconds left on the Anti-Mage's BKB. This panel is still busted, so it doesn't actually show BKB durations, but it's 5 seconds for Darkseer, 9 seconds for the Sand King, and 5 seconds for the Viper. So BKB is definitely starting to dwindle. Stuns becoming more and more potent as a result. LGD will claim another Aegis. This time around, it's going to find its way into the hands of Maybe. Speaking of hexes, and the potency of stuns increasing, we've got a hex on Yao as well now. And I think LGD still definitely in control of this game, but CDEC are not letting them have the win without a fight. Q does have his Ags now complete in terms of buybacks. We are close to a few, but there are only 2 available right now on both of the 1 positions. Shiki, did he opt for items or is he opting for buyback? It looks like it is going to be the latter, at least for now, since they can coordinate double buyback and just throw their bodies at this defense. But LGD moving into position to finish up what Sylar started. Some of the earlier split push, maybe this time around has the Aegis, can afford to be the one on the front lines. Sylar does need to be a little bit careful, but he's got 7.4k gold, so he's got buyback boots of travel to this fight if he needs it, and the familiars pretty much always represent an easy target to BOT to, so worth keeping in mind that Sylar also has that second life for this fight here. CDEC spamming to defend as best they can, but losing health on the tower little by little. That ranged Drax that they got mid, however, is gonna apply some pressure to LGD, and they will actually be TPing back the Visage here, so LGD gonna give it up for now. They still haven't claimed this tier 2 mid, so even if they jumped in here bot and got this lane of racks, they'd have to go for tier 4s if they wanted to end it right there. And it looks like, yeah, they are gonna deal with mid and maybe push down the mid lane instead. Maybe looks like he's probably gonna pick up. Oh no, so he didn't buy a Manta. He just disassembled his SNY and bought the Heaven's Halberd. So my bad there. I thought he had the SNY and the additional Yasha, and that he was gonna buy a Manta style, just for repeatable high ground siege. But that's my bad. He just disassembled. But I guess he did still end up spending the gold, and that's why he didn't have buyback, because he bought the Talisman of Evasion. But either way, Sylar now has a double damage rune. It's bound to happen eventually, and I think LGD are going to be able to claim this tier 2 with pretty much zero contest. CDEC going to hold on to that glyph for the high ground. And I think if you're XZ here, I think you go and sell your Soul Ring and you buy a Blink Dagger. Like, if you can get that perfect vacuum initiation off with your Sand King, that's too good to pass up. As much as LGD are split up, there are the occasional opportunities where you could vacuum 4 heroes together and Burrow Strike all of them. And that is definitely how you win the game if you're CDEC here. MKB up over on the Phantom Lancer. Should be able to more easily deal with the Solar Crest, the Heaven's Halberd, and the Butterfly now. So I think definitely a necessary item for him, but that does mean that the only buyout on the Radiant side is this Viper. And is there any one item that he could buy right now? Maybe all that relevant. Garter gonna pop the BKB and run in. XZ also popping BKB and running in. Looking for the Vacuum Burrow, but just ends up being missed coordination from CDEC, and that's going to cost them both of their BKBs there. In fairness, Darkseers is only 5 seconds, so not the biggest deal, but that is your 9-second Sand King BKB, and less about the duration, more about the cooldown here. And it's going to be quite a while until they have that back up. Sylar just trying to finish up this tier 3 on bottom for free, maybe. Also splitting over at mid, trying to force CDEC into making a decision. They go for Sylar, he gets hexed up. Can they save him here? Won't be able to. Force Staff is not going to be enough, and maybe now getting trained by the Phantom Lancer. They lose both. Dragon Knight's going to be back soon, but Sylar still holding on to that buyback. Assessing the fight, maybe does manage to pop the BKB and the static charge, start right-clicking away, but aggressive proves to be too much as he grabs the double. And LGD are punished for trying to greedily push both mid and bot at the same time. They lose the Aegis. Looks like they won't be forced into using either of their buybacks just yet. They do have a glyph still available as well, but this game is coming down to the wire. What can Anti-Mage even buy at this point? I mean, I guess you can get rid of your Battle Fury and you can buy a more relevant single target DPS item, potentially, but I don't know. Even that could be a little bit weird. Okay, he is going to end up buying a heart, so it looks like something's getting swapped out here. And still 30 seconds for LGD on those respawns, so it looks like the melee barracks at the very least will likely be going down. Yao perched on the side, but he's still got 10 seconds to go until his coil is off cooldown. Glyph is going to end up being used for this melee barracks. Just trying to delay CDEC as much as they possibly can. Zhao jumps in, Burrow Strike comes back to fire after the Earth Spike. The Hex is going to end up being used on the Lion, and that could be a little bit of an opportunity for LGD to make something happen while that's on cooldown, but both carries still dead. It's just going to be the Lion falling for free. The melee barracks shortly after, but at this point, a single melee barracks is not going to be the tipping point for CDEC. Roshan is still an eternity away, and there is actually a double damage rune waiting down on the bottom rune. LGD are the only ones that know about this for the time being, but CDEC, let's see if they're going to scout this one out. Oh, is anyone going to get close enough? It's nighttime. No, they won't. Boots of travel into the mid lane from aggressive. A little bit of scouting from the Shivas from XZ there, looking for any opportunity, any jump that they can find. Top lane still getting pushed in by the Raxed Waves, and Phantom Lancer maybe TPing to the mid lane a little bit early. The Familiars are also going to be auto-attacking down the Rax bottom lane, so we've got some rat birds from MMY here, and that's actually something to watch out for. If CDEC come too far outside of their base without TPs and LGD just buy multiple Boots of Travel and Boots of Travel into the familiars over in the Radiant base, then they could end the game that way. Looks like Aggressive is going to be going for that Abyssal Blade with the Skull Basher picked up so far. Doesn't look like the most traditional Phantom Lancer inventory in the world, but it's definitely the combination of items that he needs at this stage of the game. The familiars are just being ignored at the moment. Nobody is coming back to try and deal with them. They've got both of their drops ready. Is going to end up losing one, so a little bit of a miss micro there from MMY, but I mean, he doesn't really have any vision to work with, so just has to go for that. Oh, Q gets caught out. Fingered, Dragon Tail down. They used the BKB on the DK along with the Elder Dragon form, and LGD definitely looking for more Yao, coiling, orbing forward, looking for the coil. Garter, nice Force Staff, bring Shiki down onto the low ground, and it looks like CDEC, good team play, are going to be able to retreat back inside their base. Could have gone way worse if Yao had managed to find somebody, but man, even just that little play of Force Staffing the Viper down onto the low ground is pretty sweet. It looks like Shiki is going to be going for the AC as his next item in terms of buybacks. We have buybacks aplenty right now. Plenty of green on both sides as we near the 60-minute mark. It's an 8k net worth difference, but what does that matter at this point? 2k experience difference does not matter in the slightest. Do we have any levels that might be missing? No, everybody is past level 16 at this point, so we've got all of the maxed out ults up and ready to go. We got some Boots of Travel over on this Darkseer. Actually, still not buying a positioning item, which to me is still a little bit strange on Darkseer, but still getting some pretty value walls down in coordination with the Hex, so don't think I can criticize too much. I do feel like another Hex could also be a really big item for the Darkseer in this game. But it looks like CDEC kind of feel that they need the BOTs just to avoid LGD winning this via splitting. The familiars are once again back in position down on bottom lane. And MMY just gonna fly them out over the cliff, see if he can get them back to safety here. LGD have actually found Roshan, so gonna be able to grab themselves another Aegis, and this time around that's gonna come with Cheese. That's their pre-order bonus, but who's actually going to be picking this one up? So it looks like maybe is taking the Aegis. Sylar doesn't have room for anything at the moment, so Yao is going to be grabbing that Cheese. And it looks like maybe is working on... I think this is a Satanic and not a Heart, but we'll see. Sylar is buying... what's it called? Moonshard? Is that right? Yep. So it looks like Sylar is going to buy and consume a Moonshard. His Manta Style is still on the Courier at the moment. But yeah, okay, so 60 extra attack speed for him there. As he is about to pass 36k net worth. Yeah, I think if anybody wondered why people talk about Sylar's Anti-Mage, this is definitely a game that should get rid of any of your doubts. He's iconic for this hero for a very good reason. 6-1 and 10 the scoreline this game, only the one death. What is the GPM of this man? 720. And well, it turned out to be a very heads-up last pick Anti-Mage from LGD. Sylar definitely putting the team on his back this game, but still not over just yet. We've got AC on Viper. We've still got buybacks available, but LGD will be making one more bid towards this mid lane with the Aegis. And what is actually a Heart of Tarask over on this Dragon Knight. 24 armor, 3.8k hit points. Definitely difficult to bring down, but I think CDEC do still have the right clicking power. Phantom Lancer dancing around on the front lines, gonna lay in with a little bit of harassment, maybe. Viper struck up. First Force Staff comes out. And that is still the only Force Staff for LGD, so you need to be a little bit careful with how they play around this Hex at the moment. Just the Manta style illusions. I think the Manta is on the Courier at the moment, and Sylar is just using it for free building damage in between keeping his power treads in his inventory right now, which is definitely the rattiest way to play Anti-Mage. Maybe Solar Crested up. Goes in, gets a couple of auto attacks off. Burrow Strike comes in. How many of them manage to catch? Sylar in some trouble for getting Force Staffed here, there, and everywhere, but he's still hexed. He pops off the BKB and manages to blink away, disjointing that last auto attack, maybe still right-clicking away with the Aegis at his back. We've got Garter coming in with the Burrow and the Epi. MMY in some trouble. Looks like he's going to go down, might get off one more Soul Assumption. Actually, Ghost Scepters for now. Maybe getting kited around in the middle of this fight, but still not dead yet. They managed to bring down the Phantom Lancer in the midst of all of this chaos. The wall still stands. Yao now being focused by the buyback PL, but manages to get off the orb and makes it up over onto the cliff. A little bit further back, MMY will finally end up dying to one more auto attack as Sylar rejoins the fight on decent HP, but Garter's still there with more Burrow Strikes and aggressive. Still has the right click. Sylar in some trouble, hexed up once again, but Jowling with the Force Staff gets him out to safety. Aggressive now with the auto attacks, finishes the line, but Sylar comes back in on a sliver of health, but the double kill from the Illusions and the Ion Shell. They take down the Dragon Knight, they take down the Anti-Mage, and at the end of the day, CDEC hold. It costs them dearly as they end up spending 3 buybacks, but Lane of Rack still stands on bottom, and Lane, well, at least the melee barracks still stands over on mid. Buybacks are available for LGD, and the next step for CDEC is definitely trying to force those out as best they can. Phantom Lancer healing back up at the well. He's got Boots of Travel ready to get out here and rejoin. And I think if you're CDEC at this point, you just go force the buybacks. If there aren't buybacks for whatever strange reason, I think you end, but I'm not sure if you go for megas. You might, but I think one way or another the buybacks are forcing you out of here. So we'll see. Yao, does he have coil off cooldown? Does everybody have all their ultimates? Epicenter's back up. Massage is buying a Diffusal Blade to be able to purge off some of these hexes, which could be big plays. You have to keep an eye on MMY for that. Aggressive, if they are going for the tier 3s at this point. Anti-Mage going to buy back and hope that they aren't forced to use the buyback on the Dragon Knight. Sylar needs to be very careful, but he's got a Force Staff and a Diffusal Blade backing him up along with the Solar Crest. Xiaoi jumps in, drops down the stun, but doesn't find anything. It's just Shiki auto-attacking for now. Aggressive. Sylar, they jump in. They're going for Shiki. Can they auto-attack him in time? They will be able to bring him down. Onto the back lines they go. It's only the Lion down thus far, and Sylar able to blink back a little bit further away. Buyback from your Lion. Phantom Lancer focusing on the buildings, but a single Lane of Rack isn't going to matter for much at the moment, and they get the Hex off, they get the stun, and they bring down the Phantom Lancer. 120 seconds dead. Garter jumping in as well with the Epicenter, but what can he find? XC dropped the wall, but he's going to get dropped down by the Mana Void, and Shiki returning to this fight, but now on the run. Sylar doesn't have the Abyssal Blade, but just looking for some bashes, maybe also trying to close the gap. And Yao also on hot pursuit. Shiki, I think, no way out of this one. Couple more bashes and a Dragon Tail. He's going to be brought down. Double kill for Sylar. I think that's the end of the buybacks for CDEC, and that is going to be the end of this first game as the GGs come out. What a nail biter! Came down right to the wire, and honestly, what a performance out of CDEC. I think a lot of people probably came in with expectations of LGD cruising through this one, but CDEC won the early game. The only place that they faltered was being able to deal with the split push and break up onto the high ground, and in the end, Sylar's Anti-Mage is going to triumph. But if we get a game that is half as good as this one for the second game, I am still going to be a very happy chappy. So thank you guys for tuning in for the MarsTV Dota 2 League. We're going to be back with Game 2 soon. I'm not going to say too much more. I'll see you then.
Please insert coin. You need more pay.
another annihilation.
Welcome back, friends. It's MarsTV Dota 2 League time, and this is Game 2 of LGD Gaming versus CDEC Gaming. The first game was totally ridiculous, and I'm only looking forward to more great action here. Thank you for all of you who are tuning in. It's great to have you. I'm basically Purecasting on behalf of MarsTV, and let's get underway. I'm excited to see every little bit of this draft, and we'll see if Xiaowe's going to be switching things up at all. I think they almost didn't have the resources required to deal with the Phantom Lancer in the previous game, so I wonder if there's going to be any reconsidering of how they handle that hero. And I think this Lina ban is very much justified. We had 3k health plus Dragon Knights and Anti-Mages getting hexed and getting Laguna Bladed and just outright dying in the previous game. So this time around, LGD are going to get rid of the Lina. Looks like Spirit Breaker and Undying are still not going to be making it through at all. The teams are just not letting anyone have those heroes. And the other couple of bans have been in no particular order. I think we've seen some Earthshaker bans. I think we've seen a couple of... Oh man, I'm totally spacing now. I've gone from full hype mode at the end of that previous game, and now there's a little bit of a lull here as we get into the draft of Game 2. But every little back and forth, every little dance that happens in the draft to me is also just as exciting. So let's narrate this as best as possible. Q is currently thinking, okay, I take this, then he takes that, and then what's my response? Do I ban the Gyrocopter? Can we deal with the Gyrocopter? Are we going to let them have the Visage again? Okay, no. Okay, so LGD are going to end up taking the Gyrocopter themselves. The Earthshaker is still there. And what are CDEC going to choose as their answer here? I think the Gyrocopter pretty much only going to be played on the one position for Sylar this game, and that's actually something really interesting to point out. So if you look at the way that LGD in general kind of structure their drafts, if Sylar isn't getting Gyrocopter, they're picking his hero late. Xiaowei is getting the lay of the land. He's seeing, okay, what do they actually have? Which carry is going to be best suited? And then he's picking Sylar's hero, say, 4th or 5th. If it's Gyrocopter, they're picking it first. And I think that speaks a lot to the level of priority that they're placing on this hero and just how much faith Xiaowei has in the Gyrocopter. And also, in a sense, how he doesn't care about whether or not it's being counterpicked. It could be that people just haven't really worked out counterpicks at the moment. Personally, I don't know exactly what your best answer to Gyrocopter is going to be. You can always bring up those heroes that can still nicely burst through BKB, like your Lina and your Queen of Pain, but even then, I don't think those are necessarily 100% bona fide counters. So I think that is a little bit of a storyline to read into here about LGD. Just think the Gyrocopter is strong enough as a one position that they'll pick it up immediately. And I don't think they're a team that runs it mid as well. If they're picking the Gyro, it is pretty much just the safe lane. There's no additional benefit in being sneaky. There's no additional benefit in, okay, we're Alliance, so we run support Gyrocopter, and we run core Gyrocopter, and we run mid Gyrocopter. It seems like for LGD, it's pretty much just safe lane or bust, Sylar or bust. CDEC, some pretty familiar faces here in the responses. We get the Earthshaker and the Shadow Fiend. So definitely getting themselves some pretty solid heroes on the whole here as well. And LGD, the ever-popular Rubik, is also going to be making his return here. Clockwork actually ends up being banned out by LGD. I thought CDEC might have been the ones considering that for a ban themselves, because LGD actually already have the Rubik to deal with the Clockwork a little bit. And the Clock is actually really solid against the Earthshaker and the Shadow Fiend, but not going to be going for it this game. As they do also end up banning out the Slark. I think that CDEC do actually play a decent amount of this hero, so it looks like Xiaowei's done his homework and has a pretty decent read on that one. In terms of where this Earthshaker is going to be run, I get the feeling that it's probably just your support here for CDEC, but always worth mentioning that it can potentially be run off lane. And CDEC just targeting the offlaners at the moment as they ban at the Tide, but what else are they going to get rid of? Actually ends up being the Brewmaster. So still CDEC's bans. It's interesting. I feel like LGD are getting a lot of bans out on the more early, more active, more aggressive heroes, but they are always willing to snap their lineup in a totally different direction and just pick up two big late gamers for maybe and Sylar and just take the game that way. And even when they don't do that, for example, they had the game yesterday where they picked they picked a Puck, which maybe ended up playing. They still picked a Bristleback, I believe, for Yao, so they still had those two big cores to fall back on. And in general, LGD's playstyle is quite well paced, I think. But anyway, so CDEC dig into their reserve time a little bit and just come back with a Witch Doctor as the pick, so they're going to fish for a little bit more information. For LGD, what can they end up going for here? Maybe still has a ton of his heroes left in the pool. I think notably the Queen of Pain has made it through to the stage. Can be a little bit difficult against some of the Earthshaker lockdown, but could still be worth considering. Dragonite's still there if they want a more push-oriented flair to the lineup. And are there any obvious weaknesses to exploit from CDEC's lineup? Not really, but LGD do just end up grabbing the Phoenix so far, so just gonna tack a little bit more AoE teamfight into the mix, and if it does end up being a support Earthshaker for CDEC, having a melee support in lane can be one of those situations where it can be a little bit more difficult to deal with the Phoenix, especially if these are both of the supports, because then you can't go for your obvious support answers to the Phoenix. The Silencer can't really fit into the lineup, I think, at the moment, and the Skywrath Mage as well would probably be a little bit shoehorned. They could run the Earthshaker offlane and then fit one of those two supports into the lineup to give themselves a slightly better game against this Phoenix. Though the other thing to mention is that with the Phoenix pickup, LGD have somewhat forced CDEC into a ranged carry, or at least into thinking a little bit more about going for a ranged carry instead. I don't think you want a melee support and a melee safe laner with only the Witch Doctor to deal with the Phoenix. That's just asking for the Phoenix to be extremely disruptive, especially when you've got an offlane player as good as Yao piloting it. So CDEC are gonna go for a little bit of a blast from the past, bit of a blast from 6.83, as they end up going for the Troll Warlord. As much as he got nerfed, and I'm gonna actually go and check and remind myself exactly the extent of the nerfs, he is still an amazing hero to have against the Phoenix, and popping that ultimate is a great way to help deal with the Supernova. So let's have a look-see. Troll Warlord no longer gets plus 15 damage from Berserker's Rage, no longer gets any vision off either of his whirling axes, Battle Trance duration reduced by 2 seconds, but Berserker's Rage is no longer removed on death. So pretty hefty nerfs to his laning in general, but it's still kind of the hero that we knew him as in the previous patch. Though the game has definitely changed and a lot of other heroes have been buffed around him as well, so I think, yeah, it's more about dealing with the Phoenix and more about still being a very solid laning carry than it is about being Troll Warlord. And always nice to see that a hero, despite being nerfed, still has a little bit of a niche. LGD, it's not going to end up being that Queen of Pain. For maybe it is going to end up being his Storm Spirit. Zeus is the ban for CDEC, as we are probably still looking for a Xiao hero. I think MMY more than likely can end up being on that. Rubik Broodmother would have been the somewhat annoying offlaner for LGD to deal with here, and I think Xiao was definitely thinking, okay, Earthshaker and Witch Doctor are going to be the two supports. But CDEC throw a wrench in the plans somewhat, as they do end up grabbing a Lion as a somewhat better answer to the Storm Spirits. Looks like they're going to be shuffling the Earthshaker into the offlane, and they're going to now have the double range supports to help deal with the Phoenix, along with the ranged safe laner, and they're grabbing themselves some extra lockdown for the Storm Spirit. So I do really like the adjustments here from CDEC, though LGD's answer is going to be, throw some more AoE teamfight at it, and see if that's enough to win us the game, as Xiao is this time going to be piloting his Enigma. So gonna have a fast mech there. They've got tons of AoE team fights. Storm Spirit still, as we've seen in the previous patch, an extremely solid late gamer, so they're not really pressured there. CDEC also really good late game. And between the Troll Warlord and the Shadow Fiend, they've got some really fast, really early Roshan potential, so that's something that LGD are going to have to watch out for, but LGD definitely have the overwhelming superiority on all of that AoE team fight, so I think CDEC going to have to be a little bit more nuanced in how they handle these approaches. The big deal is, though, if they find even a single pick-off, their lineup is very well positioned to take a tower right afterwards, so they don't need to win a team fight to be able to go and push a single kill, which they can definitely get between the Earthshaker, the Witch Doctor, and the Lion. Should enable a tower push and should enable them to get quite a bit done. But without saying too much more, let's quickly introduce our teams and introduce the context. This is the MarsTV Dota 2 League, and this is the qualifier portion of the competition. This is game 2 of a 2-game series between CDEC and LGD, and LGD are currently up 1-0 here. MMY gonna get hit by the Fissure and slowed down by the ranged axes, quickly skilled up by Aggressive, but it's not gonna end up resulting in a kill as he does manage to sneak past on the wrong side there. But let's handle some introductions. We've got CDEC Aggressive on the Troll Warlord, Q on the Witch Doctor, XZ, offlane Earthshaker with a Mango in his inventory, Shiki on the Shadow Fiend, and who did I miss? Garter on the Lion. Meanwhile, for LGD, we've got Sylar on Gyrocopter with some boots first, MMY on Rubik with some boots first, maybe on the Storm Spirit with a Null Talisman, Xiaowei on his Enigma with some sentries, and Yao handling the offlane on Phoenix, also with some boots first. So not the double ringer protection build that we do see from some Phoenix players, and that is going to leave him a little bit more susceptible to some of the CDEC harassment, though it looks like CDEC are actually going to be sticking with some form of an aggressive tri-lane here, and they're going to try and leave the Earthshaker as the solo safe lane. I think even if LGD played these lanes like CDEC were expecting them to, I'm not sure if this is all that amazing. Yes, you are punishing the jungle Enigma being somewhat greedy because he can't really save the 2v3 lane down bot, but you're leaving your Earthshaker 1v1 against a Phoenix, which to me is not too amazing. Rocket Barrage is actually going to be coming in now, and XZ with no boots I think is dead to this early silo rotation up towards top lane. Another Rocket Barrage in 1 second. Creep Waves coming in is actually going to soak up a little bit of this, but the final auto attack is going to be enough. Sylar still ends up going down and passes back a little bit of a prize to the Earthshaker, but still first blood gold and experience going his way. And Earthshaker only getting a little bit of gold at the end of the day, and losing some for the death as well. Not even positive on the whole. So looks like MMY just going to be soaking experience down bot, and by soaking I mean not getting anything just yet, since CDEC are doing a decent job of controlling the lane. If they are getting really sick of the fact that LGD have rotated away, they could pick up an early Bastion on the Troll Warlord and just look to take the tower. Unfortunately, they've blocked out the small camp. It was the right decision if LGD were running defensive, but blocking the small camp means that they can't use the pull to actually push the tower even faster, though. I don't know if it should be too much of a problem. We'll have to see. XZ just getting zoned out by Yao at the moment as Sylar starts grabbing a little bit of farm. And Xiaowei is actually going to be the one who starts out the push over on the top lane, looking to break up CDEC's aggression on bottom, so that they can be able to return their Gyrocopter back down here and start getting some serious farm going. Touching base on middle lane. Shiki is getting dominated. 3-2 against 12-7. Maybe this is just cruel and unusual. I have not seen a mid lane matchup be this uneven in quite some time. I mean, Shiki's got his raises now, but maybe he's just not letting him get a single CS, and Bottle is going to take a little while. He's even built up a whole level lead just because of all of these denies, and trying to exploit it there. The Witch Doctor is going to come in and threaten him back a little bit, but yeah, Shiki's getting crushed. He's still Shadow Fiend. I think he's still going to catch up, but maybe looking good. Cast Bounce comes out. Hex as well. Garter looping around. It looks like I may have spoken too soon, as it is going to be CDEC picking up a first kill on this Storm Spirit mid. Unfortunately, this time around, Xiaowei not on a Shadow Demon or on an Earthshaker, so not going to be able to help out Maybe on the mid lane aggressive in a little bit of trouble. MMY coming in, has another Fade Bolt. Gonna drop that one down for the damage reduction. And Yao should only take him one more auto attack. Actually, two with the Tango regen to finish this one. Troll Warlord still alive, and Yao and MMY not that fast. Q and Garter both coming in as well. Yao getting stunned up, and looks like he's actually going to be the one to fall. Garter chasing forward. One auto attack, not quite enough. 3 HP on the Rubik. But Garter and Q, right place, right time, both mid lane and bottom. And set up 2 nice easy kills. And send the Rubik back to base. So they don't have the greedy jungler of the Enigma, but CDEC are getting a lot out of their roaming supports in the early game. And helping to recover some of these lanes that were struggling a little bit. So Troll Warlord starting strong. Earthshaker not doing all that amazingly, but just pretend he's in the off lane and things start to look a little bit better by comparison. And Shiki, after that kill on the Storm Spirit, closes the gap down to 4 CS. He's got his bottle, he's going to start bottle crowing, he's going to start spamming, and he's going to be absolutely fine. I think CDEC a little bit hesitant to set up any stacks, lest they be stolen by the Storm Spirit, so probably going to have to see Shiki just farming the jungle the old-fashioned way and spamming at mid lane, but I think he should be just fine, so shouldn't be too much of a problem there. Sylar quite contentedly farming away over on the off lane. All that the CDEC aggressive tri-lane managed to do is completely swap around the positions of off lane and safe lane this game. Both pole camps are still blocked out at the moment, and kind of worth noting that CDEC are the only team with rune vision at the moment. LGD actually placed the sentry ward up here on the high ground, right on top of the obs, but looks like they weren't able to stick around long enough to get rid of it. MMY, Q and Garter making some plays happen. The ward gets dropped up onto the high ground, but that's going to reveal the smoke. Looks like MMY may have not seen this since it is nighttime. And Garter and Q going to be coming up here. Haste Shiki. They're looking for a double here if they can get it. Sylar's already got a TP scroll, but there's so much lockdown here. MMY, the Canary down the mine shaft. He's going to tank the gank at the start. Sylar now trying to TP out. Do we have a Fissure from Earthshaker? They scout him, but XZ thought that the Gyrocopter went to the east, and they will not be able to get the secondary kill there. So 4 heroes rotating for only the Rubik kill. Not nearly as worth it as it could have been, but still solid for CDEC, and still definitely controlling the tempo of this early game. LGD starting to nickel and dime their way to a little bit of an experience lead, especially with Xiaowei just casually farming up the jungle right now without too many interruptions, though CDEC at least managing to keep the pace on gold with all of these ganks. While Shadow Fiend is away, maybe is going to get some farm. So just going to start working his way towards his treads and his soul ring. We'll see what the build is going to end up being for him. I think if things are going well, you're definitely going for... I think you're definitely going for Bloodstone into BKB. We'll see what ends up happening if things go a little bit south. Might need to be first item BKB or something like that. Orchid is also still very good, but I think in situations where you can get away with the Bloodstone, it's just such a massive farm accelerator that it's the fastest way to get your Orchid, Bloodstone, and your BKB is just to go for the Bloodstone first. So I'll probably see that for maybe if he ends up having a decent game. In terms of overall farm and levels, everybody is getting quite a lot on the map right now. Neither of the quote-unquote offlaners is really all that starved, so should make for an action-packed mid-game once we get there. And the Enigma, what's he got at the moment? Actually, he's just picked up a smoke right now, so it looks like Director 8 is keen to go and make some ganks happen and use this first black hole. MMY only level 3 at the moment, but still eager to go and help out a little bit if he can. And just some Shadow Fiend illusions scouting through, seeing if there happen to be any stacks over in the Radiant jungle. Maybe try and block out some camps, but yeah, I was just going to deal with that. As Garter and Q gonna burn through another smoke here, it looks like, on the mid lane. For the time being, just sitting behind Shiki since the Storm Spirit is level 6. And a fairly obvious gank target is the Shadow Fiend on mid, so preempting LGD right now, but actually just gonna back up and drop down the 3-man smoke. Let's see what they find. I think they're trying to kill the Enigma, and Enigma is trying to kill the Shadow Fiend, so ends up being a little bit awkward there. Enigma's actually rotated all the way up towards top. Xiaowei over in the tree line here. Sylar made his rotation back down towards bottom and knows that something suspicious is going on right now. Both supports are missing. The Shadow Fiend's disappeared from mid. XZ is off the map on top, so yeah, Gonna quite safely back off into the trees and just drop a call down to prevent a tower dive. Shiki, what did you find? Double damage runes, so it looks like they are gonna probably come down and try and muscle down this tier 1 tower, but LGD, exact same play from them. Another hero also trapped in some trees here. And yeah, Sylar realizing that his team is probably not gonna help him, they're gonna go for the trade instead. He's just gonna bail the heck out of there. Earthshaker might consider making a similar play though. I think XZ probably sticks around for a little bit just to soak a bit more experience. Does not want to risk being scouted out by a random remnant though, so he's actually just going to go mid with this. A little bit of farm waiting for him, and actually both Sylar and XZ going to end up making the exact same play as the symmetry continues around the map. Aggressive and Shiki going to end up getting the tower just a tiny bit faster. Last hits both going to the mid laners as well, as we will just continue to have parallel games happening on opposite sides of the map right now.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
So what is Shiki going for here? Probably still going to be seeing a mech build out of your Shadow Fiend. Storm Spirit's got his Soul Ring. Always a good farming item, I think, totally regardless of what kind of item build you're considering. So I don't think this is necessarily a full commitment towards the Bloodstone or anything just yet, but could at least hint a little bit in that direction. CDEC, not going to try and look for another tower here. They are, in fact, going to head over into Roshan. They've got the Troll with a bunch of points up in Fervor. They've got their Shadow Fiend. No point in the presence of the Dark Lord just yet. Shiki's a little bit of a low level to get that one, but it looks like they should still be able to get this with the Troll's Roshan prowess. Xiao and the rest of the crew pushing in top lane. The glyph's already been used. Witch Doctors come in, but not the best hero to set things up if they want to try and mass DP, so it looks like he's just gonna watch and wait as his tower falls, and then just try and grab a little bit of the experience a bit later on. It just does end up over in the hands of the Shadow Fiend, who looks like he pretty much has his mech completed, looks like just the headdress to go. And for LGD, what are they gonna end up doing? I think they've got pretty much their mech completed on the Enigma, so same kind of story there. And probably going to try and knock down a couple more towers if they can. How is XZ doing? He's got his Soul Ring, he's got some Tranquil Boots, got 800 gold to his name, so still going to be a little while until he can pick up his Blink Dagger. And the other big blink is of course the Lion, and that's Garter grabbing a bit more farm over on top right now. But I think the play for CDEC is a little bit less obvious at this stage, because if you 5-man, I don't know if the Aegis is enough to strictly win you a fight. Just because you are going to be pushing into Supernova, you're pushing into Black Hole, you're pushing into Call Down, and I don't know if the Aegis tips the balance enough in your scales. So we'll see. It's XZ in some trouble right now, as there's a gank train running his way down bot. And he's got a TP scroll, but maybe is close enough and on full mana that I think he just leads out this gank. Call down comes in, only going to connect with the one rocket, but I don't think XZ has any way out here. Does manage to drop the Fissure and make it back into the trees, but the vision from the Remnant has maybe balls himself forward. That is going to be your kill. CDEC trying to make a little bit of use of this space, however. Going to come in and try and get some damage onto the tier 1 tower. Mid glyph's already been popped. Phoenix makes his way through, but does not have enough to dive in and get the Supernova. Is going to come up right this second. And LGD willing to take this trade as they're going to look for this tier 1 tower down bot. If CDEC can get mid, it's definitely the bigger tower, and looks like they will be able to at the end of the day. For anybody wondering how Yao did the triple instantaneous fire spirits, it's either just really fast fingers, or you can also shift Q it as well. So that's the trick there. So tier 1 for a tier 1, but I think it ends up being a little bit more valuable for CDEC overall, though LGD do tack the additional kill on. We are super close across the board on net worth right now. The experience is actually a little bit in CDEC's favor over the last couple of minutes, so that Roshan showing up a bit there on the graphs, and I think still navigating this early game really well. LGD haven't really found an opportunity to use all of their big ultimates. Another big parallel is we've got double mech coming out at the exact same moment. for both sides, and CDEC still willing to pressure a little bit further with the Aegis. Aggressive needs to be careful. Not all that tanky with just a Helm of the Dominator in his inventory right now. And no Aegis for him either. Jowett looks for the Malefice stun, but not going to be able to find it. Call down coming in. Looks like the Shadow Fiend is going to be bursted. Now the decision remains for CDEC. Are they going to stick around for this fight? It's just the Axis so far. Nice stun coming in from Garter, but there's still the lift, and the Supernova is going to be there. They bring down the Lion. Shiki able to survive for now, but maybe still chasing with the double damage. And what little bit of mana he has left, the Homing Missile has come out. But with Soul Ring on cooldown and not quite enough left in the tank, it looks like LGD are going to call it quits there, popping the Aegis and getting the life of the Lion. Tower ends up going down to the Dire, so no deny there for LGD. And overall, despite a bunch of damage done from LGD, they're only just barely going to squeak out a win on that team fight. Still very close on kills, very close on the metrics, and CDEC giving LGD a run for their money in this series. This is the second early game where they've either held even or sort of come out ahead overall. And what have we got? Garter, despite the death, still has 1750, so he's pretty close to his blink. XZ, 1700 for him, so his blink dagger's coming along nicely as well. LGD, meanwhile, who is close to big items? Looks like maybe still hanging on to what he's going to be buying for the time being. Just going to jump up onto the high ground and TP out. Does not have enough mana to be able to fight aggressive at this stage. For your Troll Warlord, we're yet to see what he's going to be going into, and in general it's actually CDEC who've got more items coming up immediately. Sylar is still just working towards his BKB right now, but he's still got another 1500 or so to go on that one. And looks like for the time being, Yao just farming up a little bit. I think he can probably still go for Midas here, and the extra levels on Supernova are... He needs them to have even any kind of a chance to drop a full Supernova against the Battle Trance, so I think that's probably still his best purchase this game. We'll see what he opts for though. That's Blink Dagger number 1 for CDEC. Blink Dagger number 2, 150 gold away. Aggressive looks like just pretty standard SNY coming up for him, though it might be a death as he runs straight into the smoke, gets dropped back into the Midnight Pulse, maybe rolling forward somewhat defensively, but still going to be ready to pick up that kill. And MMY, not too unhappy that he manages to steal the Battle Trance there at the end of the day. Shiki, just waiting around the corner, but no Blink Lion ready to come and help him out or anything like that, so just gonna end up stealing that little bit of extra farm. And it looks like both teams just gonna stick to farming for the time being. The only issue for CDEC, well at least in the last couple of minutes, was that their play was not all that obvious, but they've managed to get to their Blink Daggers now, and they should now start to be able to run around and just set up kills using them and transition those into maybe not pushes, because it's still relatively early in the game. We've got a bunch of low-level heroes from a lot of 5-manning. Yeah, gonna get caught out, stunned. The need to drop the finger. No XZ there with the perfect follow-up. Shiki just around the corner to drop a raise if required, but looks like not even needed. The Earthshaker and the Lion handling that all by themselves, and well, this somewhat defensive Observer Ward is gonna end up paying dividends for CDEC there, as they now transition this into a smoke. They've still got the Echo, they've still got the finger, so they've still got free kills lined up out of these 2 Blink Daggers, and they're going to go look for more. Not a whole lot of vision over in the Radiant Jungle, so I think they'd like to have the rest of the team not too far away. But Shiki's going to pick up a double damage urn, and it looks like he is going to be sticking close to the team at the moment. They poke their head into Roshan, but it still can't be up for another minute and a half. So CDEC just playing this safe and trying to find a good angle into the Radiant Jungle right now. The Radiant Jungle, however, is full of LGD heroes who are all staying grouped up and actually looking for a smoke of their own at the moment. Maybe very close to finishing up his Bloodstone, so it looks like he's probably going to go and buy his Soul Booster right this second. And CDEC, well, just being bodyguards for Shiki right now down bottom lane.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Tier 1 mid getting pushed in is going to force Troll Warlord to pop out of the fog and reveal what he's up to at the moment. Smoke on CDEC has worn off. And LGD, do they have some wards along for the ride as they come in for this push on top lane? Looks like no. A couple of their recent wards actually being placed closer to the pit and closer to the eastern side of their jungle at the moment. Unfortunately for LGD, they've already taken the tier 2 top, so they don't really have anything to 100% answer this push down bottom lane from CDEC, who are going to be able to grab the tier 2 and start moving into position to defend their tier 1 mid. They've still got a glyph available. Q in a pretty good spot to lob a paralyzing cask and get off a death ward. Aggressive coming in from the backline's Garter as well, just lingering a little bit further back, ready to counter initiate if anything untoward happens to his troll warlord, but it looks like they are just with posturing going to be able to force LGD back from the tower and just end up taking a tier 2 for free. Net worth is still pogoing back and forth relentlessly. It's totally irrelevant. 500 gold means nothing at this point in the game, and we have touchdown. 0 experience either way. Could not ask for a closer game at the moment. A little bit light on kills, but lots of strategic positioning. Both teams trying to find any pickoffs that they can, but still being smart about dodging any deaths of their own. And what do we got? We got Dire Vision somewhat around Roshan, a little bit towards mid, just sort of keeping control over their side of the map. LGD's somewhat more aggressive, deeper, and actually this is a super cheeky observer ward. In terms of vision, it's not too bad. It does cover a potential smoke location, though I think you'll probably see this used a little bit more if this tier 1 tower does end up falling mid. But you look at this observer ward and it sees everybody on CDEC taking what they think is the defensive path up and around to come up towards top lane, but LGD getting a ton of information. Though Garter and Q, they figure it out. Wow. That's ridiculous. Okay, so they must have seen that an observer ward was placed somewhere, and that sentry ward that they placed didn't find it, but still going to scout things out and end up grabbing it there. Shiki's finished up a BKB in the meanwhile. Speaking of BKBs, we've got one over on Sylar as well. Yeah, I went for that Midas as anticipated. Bloodstone complete on the Storm Spirit. Rubik, he is pretty poor, but we'll see what he's going to end up going for. Unfortunately, he's the hard 5 as Xiaowei needs a bit of farm time to be able to finish up his BKB here. So looks like LGD for the time being. Well, at least MMY for the time being, not going to be able to get a heck of a lot of farm going for himself. LGD would still like to take this great teamfight power that they've got and go and jam it down CDEC's throat, but they have not once really found an opportunity for a 5-on-5 this game. The closest that they got was when they managed to pop the Aegis top lane, but Garter played that so nicely, put his body on the line, and even managed to get the Shadow Fiend out, so let's see what LGD can do here. Smoked up, check the pit, they know that Roshan's up. CDEC probably going to be checking it out before too long as well. Q, well, he's the dirt poor support for the CDEC side here, as Garter's got his shiny Blink Dagger, which we've already seen shown off. But everybody's itching to use their spells, I think. I mean, XC hasn't had a chance to use his Echo Slam, Lion hasn't really had a chance to use his Finger, all the LGD big ultimate heroes like the Phoenix and the Enigma have not had an opportunity to drop their spells, and yeah, right now it's just a lot of posturing, a lot of positioning. And CDEC making their way over towards the pit. I think Troll probably has... Okay, not going to be finishing up the SNY, actually just grabbing a BKB for himself as Shadow Fiend adds a Blink to the inventory, so ready to go launching in with his Lion and his Earthshaker at a moment's notice. And this is pretty big. CDEC just running straight into the pit. I think they've been spotted by this Radiant Ward, but they've got the Battle Trance, they've got the presence of the Dark Lord maxed out, so this is going to be a very quick Roshan. LGD running over as quickly as they can. They're smoked up. Xiaowei going to try and bottle them up here if he can. Q is going to be the one who scouts at the gank, but maybe jumps in. He gets the Aegis! Grand Theft Aegis there, and Shiki, along with Aggressive, they hold on to the BKBs for now. Shiki pops his, maybe stuck up on the high ground, but Shiki unable to blink out, gets that one cancelled. Looks like he's trapped. There's no Force Staff to take him onto the high ground, and that is going to be 2 for 1, and the Aegis swiped by LGD. Maybe not going to go for the red herring that was the Witch Doctor waiting outside of the pit. And, well, just going to say thank you to CDEC for all of their hard work on taking down Roshan. And Storm Spirit, pretty much the best Aegis carrying hero in the entire game, is going to saunter away with that one waiting in his inventory. That is a huge blow for poor CDEC there. And it was just so tough for the Earthshaker as well to know what to do. Everybody was jumping the Witch Doctor, but his team was still finishing Roshan, so if he goes in while Roshan's still being finished, then he probably just dies, and nothing happens. And there's... I mean, you're somewhat thinking in the back of your mind, okay, we need to stop Storm from stealing the Aegis, but you're also telling yourself, like, okay, look, there's absolutely no way that he steals that, but that's not accounting for the maybe factor. Fisher coming at mid lane, MMY gonna steal that. It's only the Enchant Totem, and in comes Garter. They're gonna drop the Echo, and they're finally going to be able to use these spells. Finger of Death got fired off in the last team fight, but Garter with the counter initiation finds the 2-hero turnaround and does manage to bring down both Yao and MMY, and he's gonna jump a little bit further forward. That Ghost Scepter only making the Rocket Barrage hit a little bit harder, but he forces the BKB out of Sylar. Still a long duration, so that Fisher's not going to connect, but despite having the Aegis and winning that last fight, CDEC are now pressing forward and continuing to make plays, even going to pick up a gem on their Witch Doctor, just to make sure that they have better control the next time around that Roshan fight happens. And in terms of vision, neither team has a heck of a lot to speak of right now. Flip is going to be popped in response to the Battle Trance. Aggressive still with the 10-second BKB, 9-second BKB on your Shadow Fiend. Maybe split pushes out top a little bit. That looks like it is going to be enough to force CDEC to reconsider and make their way back. We've got something being Helm of the Dominator here. Looks like, wait, what is it? Okay, so it's Gyrocopter just dominating a range creep. This is actually Troll's Mud Golem, which LGD are just going to deal with. So he's going to be able to dominate something a little bit more relevant pretty quickly. I don't think he... It's such a little thing, but it has a big impact. If he'd had... I don't think it had an Alpha Wolf, but having an Alpha Wolf or not for that Roshan is the difference between maybe getting there in time and you just taking Roshan and getting it absolutely for free. So it's pretty scary. What else is scary is a double damage regen Storm Spirit with an Aegis maybe is itching to jump in here. CDEC just trying to decide on what the best positioning is. And Aggressive gonna have to settle for the high ground. Doesn't want to run back over the field of battle and risk exposing himself to that storm. So it looks like it's the long way home potentially for him. There's a little bit of farm to be had over by the Ancients, and it looks like CDEC not interested in fighting this Aegis Storm Spirit. So just gonna back themselves up for another minute and a half. Storm goes zipping in, does manage to find the Troll Warlord, forces out that BKB charge, but will back himself up just as quickly. Does still need to respect the CDEC lockdown. I think they could kill him twice. What else have we got? We've got BKB Enigma. Overall item progression panel looks somewhat like this. Yao has just picked up an Ogre Club. Probably just going to be another BKB for him as well. Sylar. We saw that Dominator, which is now going to start stacking up the Ancients with a Dominated Dire ranged creep. So we'll see what his next big item is going to be. And, well, Troll Warlord and Shadow Fiend just tossing items on the pile. At this point, another 1500 gold after the Blink Dagger for the Shadow Fiend, and Troll Warlord, well, another 2k gold having completed the BKB, so still looking very comfortable as a top 2 pair on your net worth right now. And Shadow Fiend checking out bottom lane, seeing if Sylar stuck around to clear out any other camps, but Garter and Q were on their way down here hoping to find that kill, so Sylar, pretty good map awareness, is going to back himself up, as we will just kind of continue to farm. Net worth is still dead even. Experience is still pretty much dead even as well. Our biggest experience lead this game has been 2k. Our biggest net worth lead this game has been 1500. This is just ridiculously close. We've got a Blink Dagger picked up as well for the Troll Warlord, so well, CDEC just putting more and more aggressive items into the inventory. And if they can burst down the Enigma or the Phoenix, then all of a sudden the LGD teamfight lineup is not nearly as scary. So I think this is a pretty good way to go about it. They've also got the gem on the Witch Doctor, which, as much as it seemed like it's just map control and ward vision is teamfight initiation. So I think this is all just building up to CDEC always wanting to be the team on the front foot. They never want to be the ones initiated on. It could still happen since Enigma's only a couple hundred gold away from a Blink Dagger, but they're going to do their damnedest just to make sure that LGD can never spot them out. As I say that, though, Shiki's going to be caught here in some trouble, pops the BKB, and the mech lives for a little bit longer, and does manage to make it back to his team. Black Hole gets dropped down, however. Garter jumping in onto the back lines, won't be able to do anything as maybe pops his BKB and goes rolling in. Shiki going to try and drop the Requiem, but a couple more auto attacks or maybe still seal that kill, and, well, Troll Warlord also going to end up being brought down as LGD swoop in and grab 3 Garter. He's going to end up buying back here to try and hold on to the high ground. Troll and Shadow Fiend still dead for a minute. Troll's buyback is 600 gold away. Shadow Fiend's is available, but looks like LGD's still going to stick around here and get a little bit of damage done. Sylar bouncing back and forth. I don't think they have a Force Staff or anything, but just positioning himself as defensively as he can. Zhao a little bit low on mana. Mech's coming back up in just a second, and they're just going to lay down the Midnight Pulse. BKB, XE jumps in. They're going to try and burst in the Gyrocopter, and they will be able to with the Finger of Death, maybe. On retaliation, does manage to find the Lion. A little bit low on mana, but looks like he should be able to get out of the chain stun and get outside of the base. CDEC, it costs them that second life on the Lion, but do manage to burst in the Gyrocopter and will manage to repel CDEC, though it did also cost them a buyback on the Shadow Fiend. Shiki jumping in and actually hoping to get a little bit more out of that, and I think that's definitely the reason that LGD back up there. That and their Black Hole and their Supernova are both on cooldown at the moment, so it's a costly defense for CDEC, but XZ finds MMY, punches him down, no problem whatsoever. Gonna punish MMY for trying to scrounge together just a little bit of farm there. After that last fight, I feel like MMY maybe just goes for a Glimmer Cape. Blink is obviously also amazing because you steal either of Lion's stuns, and Blink is huge. Force Staff is probably the middle of the road. And if Sylar's facing the right direction, you can save him from the Hex or the Earth Spike. And yeah, okay, looks like, oh, Rubik. I think he's making this exact same decision as well right now. He's like, guys, do I want Glimmer Cape or do I want Force Staff? Well, what do you think? And somebody's probably saying, well, look, if he gets locked down, the Glimmer Cape might not save him anyway because there's plenty of physical damage, and Rubik's actually, he buys Ghost, sells it, buys the Staff of Wizardry. Meanwhile, his team's getting beat on. Jowick is blinking into the middle of everything, but he doesn't have a Black Hole. Maybe he's down, but it's only for 10 seconds. He's got that Bloodstone. And CDEC, it's their turn to swoop in and get things done. Aggressive, looking for more, but won't be able to find it. And CDEC giving as good as they get. So they're now just going to be backing themselves up. Enigma's still down, but it looks like LGD want to try and make a little bit of something happen. Maybe long zip in. It's just going to turn around as CDEC do manage to make it back up onto the high ground. There's this cheeky Radiant Ward up on this cliff right now, giving a bit of vision of to what CDEC are up to, but it looks like CDEC just going to be backing up, and it looks like Roshan is going to be the next big objective for these two teams. Unfortunately, a little bit of a long duration respawn, so CDEC won't be able to go in there right this second and grab it, which is definitely the ideal for them, but they've just got to try and play the lane control game now. Actually, into the pit they go, going to smoke their way out. LG did not see them going in there, so not as mind-gamey as it could be, but they're going to find out Yao. They've got the chain stone for sure to bring him down, and that's going to give them another minute to go and camp out this Roshan, and that should be enough to get it. We do have another dominated creep coming out from Sylar to keep on scouting things out, but CDEC moving around as this Death Ball, maybe going to zip zoop all the way across. It looks like he's going to be alright. But so for CDEC now, they're desperately pushing lanes to try and control Roshan. LGD are also desperately pushing lanes to try and control Roshan and get their Phoenix back to the world of the living. Roshan's still about another 20 seconds away. And, well, I think LGD are going to be slightly more successful on the push pressure since this tier 3 is down on mid, and that's going to demand an answer from
Dire's
CDEC.
middle barracks are under attack.
So where do we go from here? MMY still has not committed to an item with 2k gold up, so we'll see if it's going to be Blink, Force, Glimmer, or none of the above. Xiao8 has his Blink now, so he might be able to start taking over some of the warding and let the Rubik catch up a bit. We've got an Eagle Song on Sylar, so some nice damage coming out for him pretty quickly. Q's just picked up a Ghost Scepter. Looks like Troll Warlord has completed his S and Y, so probably Scotty up next for him. And we do have that BKB on Yao, but as we saw, if he gets hexed, he's probably getting dropped from full to nothing. So Garter is definitely a force to be reckoned with at the moment from CDEC. Always a good time to take a look at vision at the moment. We've got a little bit of deep radiant vision right now, along with a dominated Hellbear Smasher, scouting out the fact that Roshan has respawned. CDEC managing to keep a few more wards on the map, have some pretty good vision around the pit right now, and also some decent vision of LGD as this ward is just about to fade, as both teams start making their way over towards the pit. MMY going for the big plays item is going to end up going for the Blink, and that's flying out to him right this second, but both teams posturing for Roshan right now. Lane's in a pretty even spot. LGD applying a little bit of momentum towards bottom, and that is going to get Troll Warlord to pop on out of hiding and start pushing that lane. We've got the Dominator scouting battle happening as the melee creep goes running in. I don't know if this actually managed to spot the edge of the smoke. Sylar's going to steal the creep back, and that's going to be a hint as to his positioning. That might be a hint as to what LGD are up to here. XZ nestled in the trees. Maybe he's going to go jumping forward. They're looking for Shiki. Can they burst him down? The black hole comes out. Q. Counter initiation prevented. And he's also going to be brought down. XZ not finding the opportunity against the triple BKB. And CDEC lose their Shadow Fiend with no response. Okay, there's only 2 kills. And looks like Xiao8 is going to end up paying the price as Aggressive and Garter find him out. So 2 for 1 so far. But it cost him the black hole as well. And now we've got XZ jumping in. CDEC still have their BKBs available. They bring down the Phoenix to begin with. Maybe still has quite a bit of mana, but needs to be careful. Of the stuns. Garter will be the first one to fall. And he now has a little bit more room to work with Earthshaker. Nice blink away. Will avoid any further aggression from maybe, but 2 for 3 overall. I don't even think the golden experience ends up mattering all that much. It's more about the BKB cooldowns, more about the ultimate cooldowns. And definitely about this tower being taken. LGD moving a bit further forward in terms of controlling the map, and they still have tier 2 standing both on mid and on top lane, both on full HP. With the black hole on cooldown, CDEC can probably respawn and go straight for Roshan. Especially with these lanes in the position that they're in right now. Sylar is going to go and deal with top lane and push it back the opposite direction, and we'll see if they're going to be able to continue to fight around the pit. LGD gonna try and make things at least a little bit dark. Get a ward up on the high ground, get a ward back over here once this ward inevitably gets dewarded, and hope to be ready to take this next fight. They've got the supernova back up in 20 seconds, but still no black hole for a minute and a half. Rubik's got a blink dagger and a stolen fissure, so MMY does have quite a bit to say about this next Roshan fight, but I think CDEC should be able to go in here and take it. It does somewhat depend on confidence, and they don't have any vision to work with, but yeah, okay. Double blink dagger going straight into the pit. Centaur Conqueror is going to get dominated back by Aggressive as Sylar and the Troll Warlord just keep trading creeps back and forth. Battle Trance gets popped, Roshan dropping quickly. LGD just lurking on the outside of the pit, maybe still quite a ways away. He's managed to find himself a regen room. Fissure coming in. They are going to get the Shadow Fiend to pop BKB just out of panic, but double blink dagger is going to get the Aegis and the cheese, along with their carriers, back out to safety. So pretty big advantage for CDEC out of that, though they do still have the black hole to fear, and that's going to be cooling back down in 40 seconds time. I got a Force Staff up for XZ. Witch Doctor's not going to have anything for a very long time. Looks like Garter has picked up a Force Staff of his own, so gives them a little bit more power against these Storm Spirit initiations, which have been doing a lot. I mean, you can imagine if, okay, they jump in here, they grab the SF, but if he's facing this way, Force Staff number 1, Force Staff number 2, and now you've got a million range static link, but you're at the very least out of range of the black hole catching everybody, and you've managed to save your Shadow Fiend. Things are going to get better for SF as the game goes on as well in terms of counter initiation, since he's probably going to go Butterfly Satanic, I would guess, as his next 2 items, or maybe Butterfly Scotty. Whatever it is going to end up being extra survivability for him. We do have what looks like a Hex, yeah, coming up for maybe in just another 100 gold or so. So that's definitely going to be nice in terms of the lockdown, but again, those Hex, the 4 staffs are still going to be a decent answer to that. What have we got for the Gyrocopter? 2,700 gold up on Sylar, right up there with the Shadow Fiend and the Troll Warlord, and we'll see what his next item is going to be. Could also be that Butterfly into Satanic build from him for a little bit of extra survivability. Yao has managed to reach level 16 off of the Midas, so that bonus experience definitely coming in handy, as he is not all that high up on hero level, but is at least ahead of the supports right now. So he's got that for himself. Looks like he's probably going to be going for a Shiva's Guard. And right now, what is Enigma looking at? I think Zhao 8, probably a Hex of his own, or a Refresher Orb. Definitely both distinct possibilities here. This level 16 has that maxed out Black Hole, gets a little bit of a cooldown reduction. Aggressive finding an Invis Rune, hoping to find somebody off to the side. Their Aegis Shadow Fiend is just going to wail on this tower. Nice and safe. But LGD also playing nice and safe and just chilling everybody back on the high ground. MMY the only one outside the base, but just to place a ward. CDEC trying to equalize the map position right now as they go for both tier 2 towers. Aegis is still up for another 2 minutes, but LGD going to try and delay them as much as they can. What kind of position are the CDEC initiators in? They're all the way back here. So you can really see that CDEC are not actively interested in taking a fight right now. They just want the tier 2s, and they want to equalize that map. Back up, we've got 3.7k unspent gold on the Troll Warlord. Not too far behind him is Sylar with 3.2k, but I think he probably hangs on to buyback for the moment. Maybe did buy up to get his Scythe of Ice, so we'll need to be a little bit careful, but does have 12 Bloodstone charges to fuel a slightly faster respawn. Bottom lane's getting pushed in. Looks like CDEC are going to end up taking a little bit of damage, but TPing back for that would mean sacrificing any future use of this Aegis. And with a minute and a half remaining, I think they'd like to see if they can get something done with it. Cheeky, at the very least, wants this tier 2 tower. And Aggressive gonna come in. He's the one looking for the tower here. Can they get him? Where the 4 staffs are not saving him, and in comes the Supernova along with the Black Hole. LGD gonna wipe out 4. The Aegis gets popped. Shiki back to the world of the living. Does manage to blink himself away, but LGD totally obliterate CDEC there. XZ, no counter initiation. Looks like he's also going to be caught. The Fisher stolen. Dragged back by Maybe. Won't be able to escape. The gem hits the deck. And CDEC, what was looking like such a clear game plan, falls apart in the blink of an eye as LGD leap into action all at once. Maybe going in, Enigma going in, and Yao going in. Perfect team fight from them. And Aggressive, it was the smallest of slip-ups. The barest of slip-ups, but he's like, screw it. My Shadow Fiend's getting stunned. This tier 2 tower is taking too long. I'm gonna help, and that's what LGD were looking for. You're troll, you don't have the Aegis, you're dead. And as much as he had the cheese, was unable to use it, now forcing the buyback, and what a huge swing for LGD. Garter trying to coordinate that buyback with a little bit of lockdown and at least get something else other than just holding onto the racks, but LGD ready for it. They disengage, and looks like they're just going to go sit around and wait for their ultimates to come back off cooldown. CDEC, a bit of an opportunity to maybe go and push now that the Black Hole is on cooldown, but it's a really tough call to make, especially since they're not going to have the Aegis for this one. They do manage to get the D-wards off. Did they buy a new gem? Looks like they did. Unwilling to sacrifice that bit of map control, but it's not going to be a smoke. They've got lanes to deal with. Top lane's been pushing in the meantime. And that's going to be another 10-15 seconds that CDEC won't be able to go out and punish the Black Hole for being on cooldown. So as we get later and later into the game, the Black Hole becomes a once a fight thing as opposed to a once every other fight. But CDEC are still hunting. They've put a little bit of momentum into this mid lane, and they're going for it. Top lane is going to be a little bit suspicious, so LGD are not going to send anybody outside of the base. But CDEC's still hoping that they can find some random pick off and translate that into the tier 2 and maybe some damage on the tier 3. LGD kind of realizing what's going on. They're going to pick up a smoke on MMY and might go make the same play themselves, but they've got way more room to work with in terms of lane position and going to find out these CDEC heroes. For your graphs, we are starting to build up a bit of a substantial net worth lead, 10k for LGD and about 10k experience as well there. Sylar has actually taken the #1 spot on net worth and has picked up a Demon Edge for himself, 70 or less than 70 gold away from picking up a Monkey King bar if he so desires. Storm Spirit now with 17 Bloodstone charges up as well. His BKB is still at a relatively healthy 7 seconds. Enigma BKB down to 6, but got that first Perseverance towards a Refresher Orb coming out. Yao after that fight probably getting pretty close to a Shiva's, and he is indeed. And yeah, it was just the Troll Warlord being like, okay, I'm gonna go from here to here, and I'm gonna hit the tower. And that was it. That was the whole fight. Oh man. I mean, huge props to LGD for seeing the opportunity and going for it, but it only takes the smallest laps against some of these teams to get totally destroyed. So now Roshan's going to be, well, popping up within the next 3 minutes. CDEC still managed to get a couple of wards down out of that smoke expedition, so all is not lost there, but still, do they have any items coming up soon? Shadow Fiend, 3.8k, the Troll Warlord, well, being forced to buy back. Has picked up a Demon Edge, so still doing decently, but was slowed a little bit overall by that. And LGD are once again out on the map looking for things. Maybe he has the gem and he's dropping down some remnants to make sure that they aren't being spotted during all of this. And just waiting for somebody to show up mid lane. Try and go for a little bit of farm. MY is going to come down off the high ground and drop a Fade Bolt, so I think the jig is up. And LGD are going to be backing off. Roshan, relatively short respawn time here. Actually no, it's 2 minutes. It's past the average, but about another minute to go. LGD just kind of split pushing and poking and prodding at the moment. And I feel like LGD have just decided that they're very comfortable taking up a defensive stance this game. Even with their ultimates on cooldown, it's way easier for them to pop everything when they're the ones who are just sitting around and CDEC are running into them, so. So that is somewhat of the play. CDEC in a slightly unexpected position, but maybe goes rolling right on in. Q's going to be the first one focused. XZ pops his BKB in, but blinks himself out. Fisher stolen by MMY, keeping control of Shiki here, who gets dragged back. Garter trying to counter-initiate. Cheese is going to end up being popped, but Jowett jumping forward. He has the black hole at the ready, but maybe continues to chase. The rest of CDEC is split off to the side, and it looks like Shiki is going to end up going down here. He's got a buyback available. And Jowett does pop BKB in anticipation of some kind of retaliation from CDEC, but they're not going to end up going for anything and just sack the two heroes as LGD are forced to use no cooldowns to get that fight. I don't know how they knew that CDEC were on that cliff. I guess did they see them with this ward? No, they placed that ward during the fight to get vision up the cliff. Well, I guess just good game sense overall. CDEC still 50 seconds away from having the Shadow Fiend back up. He's got a buyback, but looks like they're still going to try and take this fight. A little bit of scouting being done by Yao as he makes his way up onto the high ground. Jowett as well. XZ needs to find the Echo Slam of a lifetime here. And can he see it? They've spotted out Yao. Jowett's going to go jumping in, tries to drop the hole, but he doesn't have BKB. He used it earlier. XZ anticipates it, drops the Echo Slam. Both of the teamfight heroes down, maybe. A little bit low, no mana left, but he's still got 20 Bloodstone charges, so he's going to be back pretty soon. Aggressive gets the bash, and will be able to find the triple kill there. Maybe back up in 4 seconds, but CDEC swoop into the Roshan pit, and they're going to be able to finish up what LGD started, grabbing the Aegis and the cheese for themselves, and somewhat getting this game back on track. So who's taking what? It's Shadow Fiend Aegis, it's a Earthshaker cheese, and it's, well, it's just a crazy game. I think that's all I can say. I've got an MKB on Troll. There's definitely got to be some new items coming up after that, so let's take a quick look. XZ has 4K, so Hex or Refresher, I think definitely on the agenda for him. And Gyrocopter, despite not getting the Aegis, is still being able to farm up pretty nicely. He's got 2.7. And Storm Spirit just going to grab himself a Shiva's Guard here. So a little bit less vulnerable against the Troll Warlord right-click bash lock, but still going to be pretty dangerous. Do we also have a Shiva's over on Yao? Yes, we do. How is the Enigma Refresher Orb going? He can pretty much buy it if he wants it. And it looks like LGD have decided that, okay, we're gonna chill out for a little bit. The Shadow Fiend did end up buying back in the midst of all of that, of course, so that was the price that CDEC paid, but they've got the Aegis on him, so not the biggest deal. I mean, that was definitely, I think, the best play that they could have made. Fisher comes out, and MMY threatening a little bit, but there's another Fisher as well. XC jumps in. They've managed to catch up the Lion, but they're a bit grouped up, and in comes Xiao Wei with the Black Hole, maybe doing good damage as well. The Supernova going in over the top. XC getting dragged back. Shiki trying to right-click through. The cheese is being popped. XC's still alive, and Aggressive coming in a little bit late, looking for a target. Xiao Wei getting right-clicked over the top of the Fisher, but Sylar controlling the team fight. Shiki's going to go down for the second time. More buybacks coming out, maybe in Sylar. Hitting some creeps as CDEC do get cleaned up. The rest of the team dropping. It's only the Rubik who goes down out of all of that, and MMY, well worth his life to group up everybody on CDEC like that and punish them with the Black Hole, and it looks like LGD will once again go back on the front foot. XZ unable to get the Echo Slam off in that fight, unable to lay down the AoE control that he was hoping for, and looks like LGD are finally going to be able to breach the first lane. The Echo Slam comes in. Yao, Sylar stunned up. Can they keep him alive? He's got the Satanic. He's going to be able to turn this one around. Aggressive also jumping in, but I don't think there's any chance that he wins this man fight. Sylar right-clicks him down. Unstoppable streak for him. Maybe jumps a little bit further forward, and it's going to be an abrupt end to this game as the GG is called, and LGD are going to take their second 2-0 for the day. But what a performance from CDEC. I think the only difference between these two teams were a handful of small mistakes from the CDEC side. Their movement was so good, the smokes were so good, the warding was impeccable, the decision making was great, but LGD just coming out ahead in some of those team fights. They had the easier to execute team fight lineup, and yeah, there's just those little things from CDEC going to prevent them from getting the win here. But that's going to wrap it up for our second series of the day, guys. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be jumping into Newbie versus HGT up next. So that should also be an amazing two-game set. Thank you very much for watching the MarsTV Dota 2 League. It's been great having you along for the ride so far, and I hope to see you for your next game.